Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 336. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the Whatnot Segulin, and the Duke of You-Know.
And we really get Duke of You-Know this time.
How's it going, eh? We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Sponsoring us this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com this month, they're doing another one of those all-new DC trades and hardcovers, 50% off. All of the new ones available for pre-order are 50% off. It's a great way to get a deal on those collected editions. I want to remind everyone that they are a digital partner for Comixology. What that means, and actually iVerse Media as well, if you're doing any digital purchases for any of your devices or for your computer, if you do it from their website, you get 5% of those purchases towards your DCB service order. So all you got to do is link that to your account every time you make a purchase. If you do it from their website, you connect to their portal. It doesn't cost you anything more to buy those books, but you're racking up credit towards a purchase. You can either use it as a discount or buy like a whole trade or a hardcover or something like that. Let that rack and build up over time and buy it that way. It's really, really great, especially if you're a big digital purchaser, to get that collected edition or those single issues that you've been looking for at an additional discount to their already amazing deals. So I want to thank DCBService.com for sponsoring the show. Over at InStockTrades.com, speaking of amazing, they have like these deals of the week all the time, and I'm just going to throw out a couple of examples. The Absolute Batman and Robin hardcover, Batman Reborn, 50% off, only $49.99. That's a $100 book.
Nice.
You know, The Adventures of Superman by Gil Kane, 50% off, only $19.99. You know, it's a $40 book. These are great deals on hardcovers. Their orders of $50 or more give you free shipping. So if you start, grabbing some of these hardcovers and things that before you were kind of like, I don't know if I want to start buying hardcovers from that because at cover price they're really expensive. Once you start doing like 40 and 50% off of hardcovers, which is what you're getting for your deals over there, you start saving a lot of money. And, when you buy a bunch of them together, all of a sudden now you're cutting down like what you would have bought for one of them before. Now you're getting like 2 or 3. Depending on how you're purchasing them. So be sure to go over there and check out the amazing deals they're always offering. They'll offer closeouts every so often. They've got stuff up to 65% off, like the Thunder Agents. They've got a lot of Thunder Agents books at 65% off. If you were thinking of trying the Thunder Agents, and Jim and I will highly recommend you any Thunder Agents materials. 65% off now, something before you're like, I couldn't fit it in my budget. 65% off. Maybe you can fit it into your budget now and check out the collected editions of those. So, it's something definitely to check out from our friends over at InStockTrades.com. On that note, James, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in depth in the plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on the show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
On this episode, we're going to be talking about Arrow. We're also going to be talking about Justice League and the Aquaman crossover, plus the Zero issues of those, because we never got to those. So we've got the Zero issues of those, and Justice League. It's actually Justice League 15 and Aquaman 15. Over on voicemail end, we're going to also talk about Batman and Robin 15. So we've got a really packed show with a lot of content. So let's talk some comics.
You look good. Been working out? You could probably use a little sun. Then again, who am I to talk?
Jim, for our initial discussion, I wanted to do a casual chat about Arrow. We just hit the mid-season finale, and the show's due back. I believe it's January 16th is the date. But we had this really cool, and this is going to be obviously spoiler-filled about Arrow, so if you're not caught up to date about Arrow, please make sure to watch the show. We've had some really cool things happen towards the end of the show, including the Huntress stuff. And I'd like to start by talking about that, because then we can kind of build into some of the reveals in the final episode. We had that great 2-episode bit with Huntress where we had Helena Bertinelli brought in, and it was very classic old DCU. I love the kind of line that's being skirted between who's the more correct vigilante.
Yeah, she was a really cool character. I wish they had done 3 episodes, to be honest with you. I enjoyed I thought it was a really good story, but I think if they would have done 3 episodes with her, they could have, just really, really gone into the wedge between the two of them, and you could really, because at the end there, they went from this, beginning passion and romance to her wanting to kill him, basically, and just that rage. I think if they had a 3rd episode, they could have really built that up, and it could have been I think it would have even been a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more higher energy even. It was good. I'm not knocking it, no criticisms of it, and it was actually a couple high praise I have for some stuff that came from the story. But I think it was one of those situations where I wish we would have gotten a little bit more, a little bit more.
I disagree. Because I think she's going to come back. You got to remember the main story is still what's going on with Ollie and his family. Right now, I wanted to get back to that end game. Don't get me wrong, I loved the Huntress stuff, but my assumption is that she's not done. I mean, it wasn't like she was arrested and she's off the game. I'm assuming that she's going to be back this season. If not, I'll be in shock, but definitely would be back for a 2nd season. But I'm convinced she's coming back. I mean, so
yeah,
I don't think the 2 episodes that we got are it. There's a story that needs to be moved, and if we hadn't have gone back to the main story, we wouldn't have gotten the stuff with John Barrowman that we got where we revealed who Merlin is. And that was the stuff, to me, that was pure gold, because I guess when they introduced Tommy Merlin as his friend, I was convinced they were kind of going the Smallville route where his buddy would eventually turn to the dark side and we'd see that he was his ancient adversary, his destined to be adversary and all that. I love that it was the dad of Merlin, and that there's a possibility he might actually be able to maintain and keep this friendship with Tommy Merlin.
Yeah, and we're echoing very similar sentiments. That with Tommy, I was thinking, oh, okay, they're going to do the turn. Yeah, I wonder how they're going to do it. And the funny thing is, they still have the open opportunity to do the turn. We still could see Tommy Merlin turn to the dark side. Mm-hmm. We still could see him become Ollie's adversary, which is, I think, a wonderful thing about the story, that we have all these options still out there, but we don't necessarily have to go that route. Ollie has his adversarial archer. Ollie has his best friend still. And it's kind of that, the specifics of Arrow that are different than the DCU that I'm really enjoying, that I'm liking. The fact that this universe, we're mid-first season, and it already has its own feel to it. It already has a connectability to it. It already has this universe, and I'm really excited about that for the speed and the development that they've done in the characters.
I like that we still don't know yet how he escaped from Deathstroke, how he escaped from the island. I mean, we saw that in the opening, we saw Deathstroke's mask kind of hanging there ominously, and I had no idea we'd see Deathstroke so soon in the series, if that made sense.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we're seeing more of that. I'm going to be very curious to see how all of that plays out, what leads to those particular events. That's one of the strengths of the series, I think, is we're getting a lot of reveals. We're getting a lot of character development. I love his relationship with Diggle. I think Diggle is a gem on the show. I think he's really somebody that is necessary as a companion. I like that he's the conscience of Ollie. He's our tried and true good guy. But yet, there's times where he can't help but see Ollie's side of it too. And, because he wants to fight for justice and things. But during the whole Hunter sequence, to me, that was also, it wasn't just the relationship between Ollie and Helena. It was Diggle seeing where it was going to go. Diggle recognizing objectively what Ollie couldn't because he was so wrapped up in it. Yeah. And that was one of the strengths of the whole thing. I will go back. Let me go back to one thing you said. You were saying that you wished it was 3 episodes. I would have wished it was 3 episodes, too, if I didn't think it was so obvious that she is going to be back. So that's where I think we're going to get a lot of the stuff that you're talking about a little bit later on down the road. I would not have traded the John Barrowman episode where they placed it for anything, because ending with that mid-season finale with him basically saying, I now realize, and Ollie doesn't realize the duality of the character that he was fighting. The truth of it, that there might be somebody even bigger than John Barrowman in this whole thing. And that's one of the things that I really love. John Barrowman as Merlin, I think, has been fantastic. I love that we didn't know that he was Merlin.
Well, and with that whole play out, I'll fully admit I had no idea going up until the ending that it was him. I was thinking it was either Deathstroke, or I was thinking that it was the Asian gentleman who kept them alive on the island. I can't think of the actor's name off the top of my head right now, or even the character name, but that's who I was thinking of going throughout that whole thing. It wasn't until, like, I'll say maybe a split second before he pulled off the mask that I realized that the notion entered my head, and it was just because we see the Merlin, the evil archer, whatever terminology we're going to use for him, walk into his hideout, cross off things, and just do it. And it was when I saw the hideout, when I saw his lair, that I was like, is that Tommy's dad? And it was just kind of like a thought process. And then he takes off the mask. I'm like, oh my god, that's so cool. But the whole episode, I'm not thinking that, and that was something I loved. That swerve, I absolutely loved it.
Oh, I think you can definitely call him Merlin. I mean, that's Tommy Merlin's dad, which makes him Merlin. So, I mean, he's totally the adversary that I never thought we were going to get this soon. That was the swerve, I think, because I agree with you. I thought it was the guy helping him on the island. I thought something might have went sour between the two of them, or, when he found out what Ollie was doing, that led him to come to town. Because I was thinking of archers in the series. I thought it was too soon for Tommy to have taken that role, so I wasn't thinking Merlin yet. I don't know why I didn't register to me that it was Dad. That it was Tommy's dad that was doing this. It makes sense, right? That that would be the guy who would be going after him. But
exactly.
I think we found out so late that John Barrowman was actually Tommy's dad that I wasn't thinking that route. And we hadn't seen anything to indicate that this guy had any kind of archery skills, that he was any kind of athletic condition, or anything. He was more acting in the suit role. Which is so funny because he was right under our noses all along. That was, to me, the beauty of the whole thing, was that I did not see that coming at all.
Yeah, and he did have that one fencing scene when he cut off Tommy. And that was just, but you think about it, for me, watching, some rich guy fencing and all that, it didn't even enter my head as physical training. It was just, probably something that, the rich and fancy would do. It's, high-end hoity-toity, pinkies up type of activity. It didn't even dawn on me that this is a guy who's physically training, who's in combat training, who's thinking this, all these different variations and disciplines. And that, I think for me, after the fact, sitting back, looking at the evidence, looking at the stuff out there, like, oh, that is so cool. And it's the watchability. Second watch through of that episode was as much, if not better, because of the reveals, because of the little clues and the little hints. The one clue that, it was funny, it started off as a point that I was like, oh, I don't know about this. That turns into, oh my God, that is awesome, was when Ollie traced the arrow back to the warehouse. Now, when I first saw it, I'll fully admit, I was like, that's kind of too easy, guy. This is a professional killer. He's not going to make it that easy. Well, he made it that easy to set up Green Arrow. Mm-hmm. And it was the setup to get him to the warehouse, to blow up the warehouse, to try to kill him. And it was that multi-layered thinking, that second, no, it's not just this simple thing. It's really this that has really got me into this TV series.
I love the way Ollie escaped it, too, though.
Yeah.
Which shows his training. And because that was the one thing that I really dug about the whole thing, is even though Ollie was definitely outthought on that one, he had a split-second decision, he made it work, and survived. And there's something I'm finding engaging about that with the character. I like that Ollie's wins aren't always clean. You can't always call them wins. But he definitely feels like he's got skills. I'm getting behind him. I love watching his training. The actor that they've cast to play Ollie, as the season's gone on more and more, I am so into him as Oliver Queen. I think he's got the duality down pat. The role of Ollie being like the irresponsible one, but yet having the feelings for Dinah is, what happened with him and Huntress is a great example of that. He fell in love with Huntress, knowing that what she was doing, hoping that what she was doing was like what he was, trying to push in that direction, finding out that it wasn't. And I don't know, there's a funny part where you could debate in this series, do you always believe what Ollie's doing is right? I don't know. You know, I mean, I like that about this superhero series, that you're dealing with a guy who's a tried and true vigilante. There's times where he crosses lines that I'm like, no, this is not what I consider superheroing.
Yeah.
And that's something I really like when comics explore that. I like when this TV show is exploring that. It's not clean. And that's something that I think makes the series interesting. Sometimes when you've got, the white knight coming in and the guy clearly in black, and there's no gray areas, you lose sometimes that part that's interesting about comics. And this has captured, I think, every bit of that. And I like that there's different shades. Huntress definitely falls into the different shades. She's out for revenge, doesn't care who gets hurt along the way. And I love that it's the world that they're in is a kind of crazy. And she was a lot more crazy than Ollie is. Because it could be argued that there's something seriously wrong with Ollie.
Oh, big time.
And she's got a lot more wrong with her.
Yeah, you mentioned casting with Ollie, and just you can't ignore just casting, spot on casting for supporting cast as well.
Oh yeah.
And even I'm talking full on supporting cast. This has just been absolutely wonderful. From the sister, the mother, even our one and done characters like Helena's dad. I love the fact that they didn't go with we're like, okay, we got Italian mobster, that means we got to go New York or New Jersey accent. No, they didn't go with that at all. And I kind of was like, wait a minute, oh, that's neat, cool. I was very happy not to see that it's not pigeonholed in just the one section of the country. There's organized crime everywhere. There's people who are from Italian families everywhere. It's not just one section of this country. And I was glad to see that they didn't go that route, that they, let other things happen, let other characters or styles, get portrayed. And I was like, it's something that I'm enjoying really exceptionally about this, because this isn't just about every week finds a new guy, crosses him off the list. The character is growing. The supporting cast is growing. His mission is adjusting as it's going on. He now has this concept that it's not just a simple list that my father put together. What is this list? He's going to start exploring the list. And I was just like, that in itself is a whole nother branch off of the adventure. And this is a living comic book coming to right in front of us, and I love that.
Well, I like that originally he thought the list was created by his dad, and now that he knows that it wasn't, and somebody else created the list, he knows that there's more to the list.
Yeah.
And you're right, the list has now become something far more than we ever thought it was, and that's something that I'm finding interesting. I like that, he swore that I'm going to bring down the guy who's behind the list. During the series, one of the other things I liked was when Diggle was talking to him about the fact that you can't just be about revenge, and you can't skip opportunities to help real people.
Yeah.
And that's something I've loved that this first half of the season's explored. And I think that's where we start to see Ollie become more of a superhero than a vigilante. And I want to be really careful on that, because what Ollie's doing is clearly illegal. I'm not saying anything else otherwise. He's clearly a vigilante. He's crossed lines that, are definitely huge lines. So I see that. But there's that part, that's that part where I say that with the shades of gray, the distinction between him and Helena grows during those sequences. I liked seeing the two of them together where it looked like he might actually be able to save her.
Yeah.
Until we found out that even in those moments with Dinah, no matter what happened, that dinner with Dinah, Tommy, Ollie, and Helena would not have been the only time where that line could have been crossed. Ollie was doomed for that to happen at some point. There was something that was going to set her off. It just happened to be that event that did it. And that was something that at the end of it really resonated with me, that that relationship was doomed. I kind of wanted to see it go somewhere, but I like that it didn't. Because I think if you'd played it out, there would have been something cliche about it. I liked that it did. It just it ended very quick.
Yeah,
and all it took was one bad date to, you said you wouldn't hurt me and you did. And she saw the truth that Ollie still has feelings for Dinah, and Dinah still has feelings for Ollie. And I like that Tommy had problems with that as well. And that was what kept Tommy that proud Tommy, from going to Ollie for help. And I think that's true in a relationship like that, where they're two friends. That's one of the reasons why, there's that guy code, you don't date your buddy's ex. That's one of the reasons why you don't do it, because it leads to that kind of awkward situations. But I also get why, because Tommy and her knew each other for so long, I get why that relationship kicked off and happened. And that's something that I think I loved about the whole dinner date and all that. I was there with Tommy and Dinah, understanding what was going on with them, understanding the heavy emotions for Tommy. I actually was feeling sorry for Tommy. Feeling a little bit sorry for Dinah, too. Feeling sorry for Helena being in the middle of that. I felt less sorry for Ollie and Dinah. Because that never, Dinah should have never asked to sit down at the table with them. Ollie should have never agreed.
Well, yeah. It's funny, when that whole thing was playing out, I was kind of laughing just because I knew it was just going to go horribly wrong. And it was those moments where I really felt bad for Tommy. Of everybody in that mix, he is the guy that I am feeling the worst for. Because he's trying to do the right thing. He's trying to be a good guy. And he's just up against odds. And I'm rooting for him. And I wish, as much as I enjoy Dinah and Ollie together and just the concept of those two and how neat it would be in Arrow, I wish they would do a big swerve on us and those two aren't together. And Tommy and Dinah just stay together and they live happily ever after. And in this universe, it's different. Just because Tommy is a guy that I'm starting to connect to, and I'm starting to hey, he's got the chance to be the right guy. He's got a chance to be a good guy. There is, he's got that potential, and I don't want to lose that. It's kind of a sentiment I had towards Lex in the beginning of the Smallville universe, where I was really enjoying that good, honest Lex Luthor. And I was just come on, hold on, and you're rooting for it. You're rooting for him to remain a good guy, and it's not going to happen. And with Tommy, there's still a chance. There's still a chance that he's not going to become the bad guy.
See, and I'm wondering what is going to go horribly wrong, because what's going to ultimately happen is one of two things. I'm figuring at some point Dad might die, and that's going to set Tommy off. The other thing that might happen is Ollie and Dinah wind up together. That's going to set Tommy off. Because there's unresolved feelings between Ollie and Dinah. The real way to handle that would be for the two of them to separate and not be together.
Yeah.
I mean, out of respect to Tommy and her, inviting them to a holiday party together, it sounds like a stand-up thing to do. And I get that. But they should have respectfully declined. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get why Ollie did the invite. How do you not invite the friend and all that and do the +1 and do that whole thing and let them in? I get the whole let bygones be bygones thing. It's too soon. The emotion that is there between them, from the sister's death to admissions that there's feelings still there. We've seen that this season, and it's not a whole season over yet, where there's been admitting that there's still feelings. So you've got all of that swirled up. Why would you keep putting yourself in these situations to open up those old wounds when you're trying to build a new relationship with somebody else? It doesn't work. That's destined to not work out the more the two of them are with Ollie. Now, it makes for great television.
Yeah.
And it's real. Because that's in real life, you're constantly put in these situations where, but Ollie's my best friend. I'm asking this guy for a job. We've hung together for years. It's going to be the status party that everyone needs to be at. And the other thing is, too, there's also on Tommy's end that need to show that he's not running away from Ollie and Dinah, that he can overcome that. He can be more than that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The trick is, though, that'll never happen in a relationship where you're constantly putting that in your face. You need to walk away from it. You need to let some healing happen. You need to build some solid relationship. They haven't had a chance to build a really solid relationship yet. They've had huge arguments. The restaurant thing where Tommy walked out on them, walked out on her afterwards at the end because he was so upset, that's very fresh. So, the two of them really need to isolate themselves from Ollie, and that's just not going to happen. That relationship's not going to go somewhere good. No. It might get stronger along the way. They might date, but you can't do that. And it's an interesting dynamic. I love that about the show, that it feels very real, it feels very human, and it's mistakes that we'd all make. Those are real-world mistakes. Those aren't like television mistakes. I think those awkward situations, especially when you're talking about people who've grown up together, people whose social world has been together, they talk about repeatedly how it was the three of them. That's how it came up to Helena that Ollie and Dinah had dated. It was the rich history between the three of them. The problem is, in order for, if there's any respect for what's going on with Tommy and Dinah, then it needs to become the two of them.
Yeah.
And Ollie needs to be kind of left off to the side.
Yeah, and for me, I think everything's going to come to head, with Tommy. And I don't want this to happen, but here's my theory on this. Green Arrow is going to kill Tommy's dad. Tommy is going to probably realize who Green Arrow is, and then Ollie is going to get Dinah. So he's going to get hit with a trifecta, that his best friend kills his father and then takes his girl. And I think that's going to send Tommy in a tailspin. And he's going to learn about what his father's really about. And I think that's going to be the crossover. That's going to be the turning of Tommy. And he's going to become Merlin. He's going to become actually the adversary, Green Arrow's adversary. And it's going to be one of those, I know who you are, you know who I am type of adversarial relationships. That's my guess.
What if they don't? What if it doesn't go that route?
I'd be happy. I'd be ecstatic.
Here's my thing.
I like Tommy.
Here's my thing, though. I don't know that Tommy's dad has to die. I don't know that has to be the end result. I think it would be an interesting story to what happens when Tommy does find out and has to choose sides. I think that would be interesting television, too. And which side would he choose?
Currently, I would say he would choose... If he found out that Ollie was Green Arrow and that his dad was the big bad in the city, he's siding with Ollie. Just because he and his dad, he hates his dad. I think there's a genuine hatred towards his father. It's not just, oh, geez, I can't believe Dad's doing this to me. There is an honest, vileness towards his father. That I think if he were to, had to choose between the two of them, right now he's going with Ollie. That's why I think there needs to be something else on top of that to push him away from Ollie.
I guess I'm wondering what happens if Dad starts to gain some respect for Tommy. Because I don't know... To me, it would be a mistake to make the dad thing wrap up quick.
No. Yeah, I agree.
I think that needs to be something that's played out. And we see that develop over time. And there'd be clues there. And, this idea that there's somebody who might be a bigger bad than Merlin that was hinted at. And it could just be that it's Merlin. But, I don't know that I believe that's the case. I believe there might be somebody else involved that's a bigger bad in all this. What happens if Ollie takes down the bigger bad and along the way, relationship develops. I'd love to see a relationship develop again between John Barrowman and his son just to see, if that affects Merlin in some way. Mm-hmm. Tommy, I should say. I guess I was going to say Merlin. I'm going to say both of them because their last name's Merlin. I don't know. And that's the funny part. I think there's a lot of different directions this could go in, and that's one of the things I'm loving about the series is I see a lot of potential branching paths. And it could be a quick thing. It could be the death of Dad that does it. It could be loss of Dinah that does it. I would love to see the possibility, though, that the son's kind of the Harry Osborn of this, where he remains like a good guy for the longest time, and it takes something major way down the road to make that turn. You could do the whole Green Goblin thing where, it was Dad for the longest time, and Harry was always deep down a good guy. It was, he snapped and went a little crazy eventually. I always liked that story aspect of it.
Season 7, the
sure.
turning of Tommy Merlin. I would love to see a nice long run of him as the friend. And again, I'm going to throw out a Smallville reference. Look how long it took for Lex to do the full-on turn. That was a great story, just building up of, the anticipation of it. They could do the exact same thing with the dad running it. I'm hoping we get a nice long run of the dad as the big bad, and, with Tommy being his buddy and his friend, and even a long relationship between Dinah and Tommy. Just, that whole thing playing out, and Ollie doing his thing, and just, I'd love to see all that. Just, let's take our time. Let's, we're not in a hurry. I'd love a 10-season run out of this series.
Do you think it's a foregone conclusion that Tommy's going to turn?
I hope not, but I think it's going to happen. I don't think it's foregone just because this is a completely separate universe. This is its own entity, and they can do however and whatever they want. But I don't think...
Why does the... Wait, I guess here's what I'm saying. You're looking at the DC universe and saying that it's a different universe. I guess I'm not convinced that Tommy's Merlin. I'm convinced the dad's Merlin. Like, you keep saying, like, whatever we call the dad. I'm calling the dad Merlin.
Yeah,
I don't know that the son has to be his adversary. I guess when I first saw the series kick off and he was introduced as Tommy Merlin, I was convinced they were doing a Lex thing again, where Tommy's going to eventually turn. I don't know now that could very well still be the case. I'm not saying I've thrown that out the window, but I guess there's a part of me now that's seeing the other possibility that now that we've had the reveal mid-season wise that it was Dad, that Dad is Merlin, I don't know that means that Tommy has to be. There's nothing even if you're going off of comic canon, there's never an indication in the comics of Merlin's son going against Ollie. It was Merlin who went against Ollie. We've got Merlin.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. We could very easily keep Tommy as on the side of the Angels and not turn him. And I would have absolutely no problem with that. I'd love it because I legitimately like the character. I want him to succeed. I want him to be happy. But it's just part of me is that, that nagging inside, my sensei senses, or the whatnot, is tingling, and I'm just like going, come on, it's gonna happen. When's it gonna happen? But it's gonna happen. I've got that gut feeling that they're gonna do it. It's nothing. I'm saying it must happen. If it doesn't happen, I'll think it's terrible. No, that's the writing on the wall to me. Now, again, swerves are wonderful. Swerves are fabulous. I'd love a swerve that he doesn't turn and he remains the loyal friend and everything is cool there. That'd be great. Heck, introduce a new character, introduce a new female character to him so he can find love and happiness and little kids and, and just live a happy, wonderful life. But I don't see it happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm very, very curious to see what happens. The other character that I want to continue to see development out of is Ollie's sister, Speedy.
Yeah, Speedy.
The mom I love, the stepdad I love, the whole dynamic going on behind the scenes with the stepdad trying to cover his trail of doing research behind the scenes, how doing that now has gotten him to be captured, and what's going to happen to him as a result of all this. It's an interesting story.
What's going to happen to the tech girl? Yeah. That's another character. She was a quick blip, and now character is developing. I want to see what happens to her once it's identified that something's going on here. Well, she's already knows something's going on, but when Walter is no longer around, is she going to put two and two together and say, "Hey, this doesn't add up. He should be here. This is something's not right."
Now, I'm not taking it that she's in danger. Like, right now, I'm taking it that they are assuming this has been Walter's investigation.
Yeah.
And that she's not being looked at right now. I like her being, like, Ollie's kind of... I don't want to say confidant. I like the way that it's working out, that Ollie's asking, like, for things like the arrows and stuff like that. Ollie's digging for that information kind of under the radar. Yeah. And not making it a Green Arrow thing. And I like that over the dinner, too. He needs to come up with a better code name. How about Green Arrow? And I like that that was kind of brushed under the carpet as being kind of cheesy. Yeah. But the reference and the nod I thought was fantastic. But I like that there's nothing with her that would indicate that she knows she's helping out the vigilante. that was something that I really liked. I like the whole hood gimmick. I like the way it's working out. I like his costume a lot. I think his costume really works on TV. I like the Smallville version of it. I like this version I think I like this version more, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it fits this. It fits the character. So I can't even say I like it more because the Smallville version fit Smallville universe. This fits Arrow universe, and it's definitely a cool look, and I'm happy they're doing it. And it's something along the line I'd like to see again, tweaks and modifications. And it's nothing like, I'm not saying it's missing anything. It's just, as the character develops, I'd like to see him make some changes. Make some improvements to it. And, the introduction, I always like goggles and the mask that has a functionality other than just trying to hide identity, with the telescopic lenses and the variations and thermal retinal scanners and whatnot, and I'd like to see kind of stuff like that get introduced eventually down the line.
Ooh, I don't know that I want. You know what? I want to be cautious with that. Because one of the things that I'm really liking about this is it's a lot more like the Mike Grell run, where he's not doing that. He's not going to those kind of gimmicks as much. I mean, like, he's doing it in the arrows and stuff, but I love that his look is clean, it's dark, it's simple, and a lot of the tech comes from just arrows when necessary, but overall, he's an archer. It's a tried and true archer thing, and I think that's working well. DC's publishing, right now, which I think is great, not just with the television show, they're publishing 3 different Green Arrow continuities right now, and I love that. We've got the new DC Universe version of Green Arrow right now. We've got the Arrow version of Green Arrow, and we've got the Smallville version still being published. And I love the fact that in the comic book end of it, they haven't dropped any of those. Because I think a lot of times the mistake, and this always infuriates me when comic companies do this, and DC tends to do this a lot, especially with their animated stuff. Like, once a new animated series starts with their characters, they tend to eventually phase out the series that might be, the comic series that might be conflictory to it and all that stuff. I don't want to see that happen with the Green Arrow books, because I'm loving the Smallville stuff. That's why I guess I will backpedal a little bit and say, I don't know that I'm saying that this version of the costume is better. I think it totally fits this world. It is, I will say, the geeky part of me likes the fact that it is a little bit more Longbow Hunters, and I like that look for Green Arrow. It's very, very grounded. It fits his time on the island. I love that, when you look back on the island, you saw, his mentor wearing something similar, and it's definitely a nod to that kind of style, and that's part of his training, and it goes back to the roots. He's, not linking it towards being a superhero. He was just linking it towards, this is how I dressed there, this color scheme worked for me, I know how to use this to interact with and blend into environments. It's dark enough that it works, but it also, you could see this guy working for him in daytime, as long as he's hiding in the brush and things like that. So it's got multiple functionality purposes to it, but there's something simple to it as well. I also got to say, going back and correcting myself a little bit too, I wouldn't mind if they do the whole goggles thing and stuff, because you're right, that kind of tech is really cool, and I geek out over that. Right now, though, I'm liking the fact that his idea of a mask isn't like a traditional superhero mask, because he isn't thinking of himself that way. He's not trying to be a superhero. He's painting his face, painting around his eyes, and keeping the hood down. Really, the hood's more of his mask than the mask is. The idea with any of the face painting that he's done is really, if somebody happens to catch a glimpse under the hood, between the hood and the darkness and all that and the paint, it would hopefully obscure somebody's vision of what they saw, and them not to be able to identify that it's Ollie Queen under there. But it really is the hood more than anything else that's really hiding his identity, which then lends itself, I guess, back to what you were saying as far as you could do goggles and stuff like that, because that's not the purpose of it. But I don't know. I kind of like the fact that part of it stayed kind of low tech.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm in agreement with you. I'm just talking. I'm talking season 5, season 6, when he is becoming more of a superhero. and less of a vigilante, when he's becoming more of that city role model, when he's becoming more of, brighter hero as opposed to in the shadows. That's where I'd like to see tweaks of the costume start to come into play, where he's not sulking in the shadows anymore. He's more out in the light. And I'll be honest, I'd love to see the goatee. I would love to see just, even if it's a fake goatee he puts on just as a one and done joke, or just a nod to it.
Okay, I'll go with that. I don't want to. And let me clarify. I love the whole goatee look of Green Arrow. I loved all that. I don't necessarily need to see it in this show. I don't think it works. I think if you put the goatee on him in this world, everyone will know who he is. And I don't want to see that. Because if they don't, I don't know. How do you cover that he's the Hood? I mean, I think there's already been a spotlight shined on him as possibly being that character. To do a goatee now gives a visual. A Hood isn't going to hide. His chin's more readily visible. I don't want to see that. I like that it's just a chin. Because then you've got like a much smaller. Because who in this show has a goatee?
Right.
I mean, you put that on him, you might as well like put a stamp on his head. Hey, I'm here. You're now going back to what you said as a joke at a party or something. You know what I mean?
I think it'd be hysterical.
To have that I would like.
Moment.
Yeah. The same way that the geeky way that they were talking about the code name.
Exactly.
I think that stuff all works, and I would love to see references like that. The show is filled with these great references to cities and characters that we know from the DC universe. And it's done subtly enough that it's not, again, we talked about this the last time we talked about it. That's something that I'm just loving as a fan, trying to catch as many references to creators and characters as possible in the show. And I think that's just great writing, recognizing a part of your audience while keeping the show accessible. I'm glad the numbers are doing well, and it really is because it's a story that's very open. I don't know that I want to see him ever go tried and true superhero. Like, I might say something different, seasons enough down the road, but I kind of like the idea of, like, this whole thing when the battle with him and Merlin, with who's the best archer. I would love to see him training more and more and not needing to rely on technology to become a better archer, but relying on skill, becoming the actual best, because it's going to make him better at what he does. That's why there's that part of me when you were mentioning tech. I'm a tech junkie. I love that stuff. I would love, though, the battle of the true tried and true archers. To me, once you put goggles and stuff on him, and I know when you were saying night vision, you're talking more being able to see in the dark and things like that. I kind of like the idea of this archer not needing that, though, to be able to use his arrows. The trick arrows, I think that's why I give those a pass, because he's not using the trick arrows to be a better shot. He's using the trick arrows to kind of do the tech things that you're talking about, but he's relying on his archery skill to deliver them. And I always want with him a constant growth in the archery skill and not having to rely on tech. I love that his bow is a bow. It's not an enhanced bow. It's not a tech-filled bow. It's a bow. And there's something about that. I love the Smallville one that had that bow that kind of folded up and popped out and all that kind of stuff. But that worked for the Smallville guy. I don't think that stuff works for this guy. I like the battle with him and Merlin. There was something about that where Merlin was talking about being the better archer and all that. The repartee there.
Yeah.
That's where I want to see Ollie come back. I want to see Ollie beat him as the better archer. I want him to become that better archer. I want to see him continue to train. I want to see him continue to grow. I want, as they battle, I don't even know that I need to see Ollie win the next battle between the two of them. I want to see Ollie constantly strive to become the better archer. And I want to see him, I don't want to see him beat him with tech on his eyes or that kind of stuff. I want to see him beat him clean because he's a better archer.
No, I'm in agreement with you on that. I would love to see that sequences. And round 1 went to Merlin. Round 2 may go to Merlin, but eventually we're going to see Arrow take him. And it's the build up and the anticipation to that fight is what I want to see, and that's what I'm looking forward to. And I'm curious as to what this big horrific event that Merlin's got planned for the city. There's something huge in the horizon coming. Something natural or man-made or some type of craziness that's going to happen. That's going to put the city on its ear, and that's going to cause pure chaos. And I want to see what that's going to be and why do these bad guys want this to happen? What could they gain from it?
Well, they want to destroy the city. Like, completely destroy the city.
But what do you gain out of it? If you destroy your city, if you destroy where you get all your money and your power, what do you have left?
Well, we don't want to see that happen. Because it'll be the end of the city.
But what would the bad guys gain from it? That's what I want to know.
We'll find out.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. We're going to find it. But it's just like, that's the thing. Just that concept that they introduced always has me going, what? Wait, what? Hold on. It gets the brain firing on all cylinders trying to figure out what exactly is going to happen.
Yeah, and there's something that I really like about that. I would love to see the origins of the formation of the society. Smallville did a really good job with that with the Veritas. That whole behind-the-scenes stuff that was going on with the society of people that Lionel was a part of that were, like, seeking out the Visitor. And I liked that gimmick, when they did that. I thought that was something really cool. And I do want to clarify, when I was comparing the Smallville Green Arrow to this one and how I don't want them to be alike, it's not because I dislike the Smallville version. I loved Smallville. I love that character. I still love reading that character immensely in the comic. I think that's just it, though. I like that in the Smallville world. I think that works. I like that it's its own separate continuity. And I want to applaud DC for continuing to publish digitally. And in print, because they're doing the same thing with Arrow and Smallville, still publishing them in print. 3 different versions of Green Arrow. To me, that's one of the joys of the DC universe. I think it's working over at Marvel. You're seeing a lot of different Spider-Man, and I'm enjoying all of that. So, I don't think that you need to go, well, because this television show's out now, there's still Smallville fans. I'm one of them that loves reading the continuing adventures of Smallville. Please keep that world being what it is. I don't need to see that a part of the DC universe. I like that it's kind of its own thing. It's just, Brian Q. Miller's hitting a home run with that. Arrow, I like that it's its own world, and they're still supporting it with, a comic book product that's really good too. So this whole digital stuff they're doing into print, I think is a great way to deliver this kind of material, and it doesn't contradict anything or ruin anything that's going on in the New 52. That's its own unique story, and I'm glad it's not beholden to the TV series. Because I think that would be a huge mistake to say you have to play ball with that. So I don't know. I think it's cool. This show is fantastic. I can't wait till the 16th. It was funny after that finale, mid-season. I don't know. They didn't officially call it a mid-season finale, but that was pretty clear that was wrapping up, a certain placeholder. It was really kind of cool that after that I went to my wife and I go, this show should be on every day. Because I immediately wanted to see another episode. And I meant it. I would watch that show daily if there was any way for that kind of delivery. It's one of those that I wish I had jumped on 7 years too late, and I was watching it in DVD where I could watch episode after episode after episode of it in the season. Because I've watched all the episodes again in order since, their original airings, and it watches really well in groups of episodes. It's a great show that way. And I hope it has a nice long run. And I honestly encourage anybody on here who's listening to this, if you have not watched the series, you need to. It's a really, really cool way to bring Green Arrow into a quote-unquote real world. And I'm glad to see it. I'm hoping, like I said, I'm hoping that these people are behind doing a Wonder Woman series that they keep being rumors of. I hope that series comes to fruition and that they take a look at what's worked with Smallville, what's working with this, and they deliver something unique that's not a rehash of either of those. It's its own set world. I don't need that series to be... I mean, if they did a crossover with Green Arrow, great. Or with Arrow, great. I don't know that I necessarily need to see that, though.
Yeah. No, it can be its own separate entity. This has me excited and anticipating other stuff because we're seeing they're getting it. They're understanding what they need to do. So I'm like, okay, let's continue on. Let's keep the fires going. Let's give us another one, please.
Yeah. So it's a good show.
So, who's got a camera? Ooh, get one of me and the kid first. Then you and me, then the three of us, and then one with the crowbar. Then...
Our next discussion will be on Justice League number 0. The writers Jeff Johns, artist Gary Frank, colorist Brad Anderson, letterer Nick J. Napolitano, with cover by Frank Anderson, Evan Reese, Joe Prada, and Rod Reese on the variant covers. Editor is Katie Kubert, and assistant editor is Katie Kubert, and editor is Brian Cunningham.
You know, it's funny. You and I have been having a lot of discussions off the air about just how we want to handle the sheer amount of material that we've got to get to over the next year. Because there's a lot of things going on next year, over the next month. There's a lot of big stories going on at DC right now. And we've been doing a lot of coverage of Death of the Family. We haven't really touched Justice League in a while. And this is the flagship team book at DC. This is the one that kicked it all off. This, you know, it was funny. We were talking about before this, you know, do we jump into the zero issues? Do we start talking about the crossover first? I think we have to talk about this first because there's stuff going on in the crossover that's directly impacted by these zero issues. At first, they're good lead-ins to all this. This zero issue is great because we get to see the true origin of how Billy gets the powers. What do you think of this Billy Batson? Because it's I grew up watching the TV show Shazam. I grew up with the Viewmasters based on the comics. I grew up, or animation as well with the character. I grew up with Power of Shazam, really enjoying that book. This is I don't want to say a very different Billy, but it is a different Billy. You know, I don't want to put the very in front of it, but it is a different Billy for me. Your exposure, though, to Shazam, did you watch the show as a kid?
Yeah, I did. And I'll be honest with you, I don't recall much of it. You know, it was one of those shows where I do remember watching it, but I don't remember any details. I didn't have any fond connection or just, oh, this is great, yay, time for Shazam. You know, it was one of those things when it was on, I was like, oh, okay, it's on. Or I'm like, I'm just going to go over here and do this instead. And it was, so Billy's a character that I never really had this passionate loyalty or this connection, and there's so many people out there who are so, passionate about Billy and just the characterization and just who he is about being the kid in the superhero body and just golly gee willikers, holy Moses, and that's holy mackerel or whatever his variations and phrases he would throw out there. But for me, I never had that. So this birth of this Billy, this version of Shazam, is really my ground floor for it. So for me, I have notions in my head of what everyone thought Billy was and what people said Billy was, but I never had any really personal connection to him. So for me, I'm liking the story. I think he's a little brat. He's a little bit of a pain, but there's some really cool potential for some stories in this kid. And, in the right hands, which he currently is in the right hands, we're going to get some really great characterizations out of him and just who he is and what he's about and what he's going to become about very shortly we're going to see some growth in him. And you need to have that, the brat to really get a fondness and a growth for the hero he's going to become.
Holy moly, baby, holy moly! I loved Billy Batson growing up from the TV show. The TV show was really my first starting point with the character. I wanted to drive around in a Winnebago with an old guy named Mentor. I mean, I was that into the show. It had ISIS that came either after it, I believe. And they did a crossover a couple of times, I believe. I know for sure they did one crossover. I thought they did a couple of them with him and I ended up watching the ISIS show because of it. It was a great, for a kid growing up to see, who liked the Batman series, to see another superhero live action series happening every Saturday, two of them, if you kind of, with ISIS as well, that was just geeky for me. Usually it was stuff that was reserved for animation, And I loved seeing how they did it. They made me believe that this guy was a hero. They had these great morals at the end, which, you know, for me as a little kid in the 70s, the morals were really cool. You know, hey, Captain Marvel's coming down and talking to the kids. You know, you were hoping that you were one of the kids. And I don't know, there was something that was, the whole experience for me was at a time in my life where it was great. You keep mentioning him being the brat, and I agree with you, except when the chips are down and there's a decision to be the good guy, we keep seeing him take the high ground. Like Freddy, who you get this idea that he didn't really like, that first time that we saw him defend Freddy, you know, and it's the stuff that the Wizard recognizes in him. You know, those times where you tried to be good. You know, when he mentions that in there and we see those sequences, those are the moments that, like, when the chips are down, this guy has a good heart. He will do these things. He's not looking for credit for it. He doesn't want people to think of him as a good guy. So he's not doing it for those reasons. I don't think he could tell you why he does those things. To me, I think that's inherently good. He's not doing these good things for any kind of thing in return, the times that he's done them. And there's something about that is more pure to me. I agree, echoing everything you said about him being a brat. But the brat at his core, deep down in there, and it's small, but it's there, there's really a pure good guy buried underneath all of the nonsense that life has thrown at him. And I kind of geek out of that as a teacher, because I've had students that, like, you know, have gone through some rough struggles and stuff like that, but you kind of see that it's this kid in there that wants to come out that's really a nice, you know, this cool, nice person. And when you find that, when you see those moments, you really latch onto them a little bit more. I'm connecting with this Billy on a deep level because I really do think he's a good guy. You know, you cut through all that behavior is defensive mechanisms to what life has thrown at him. And even in the powers, you know, he can't tell you why, like, he'll stop a robbery when he sees it happening. He just does it. And, you know, he, at the end, does he handle it bad by asking for the, you know, saying, well, I don't have any money? Does he handle that awkwardly, and should he not do that? Absolutely. But he didn't do it for the money. He didn't go in there saying to himself, I'm going to get some money for this lady. He went in and did it because he saw this thing happen and just reacted accordingly. The ending, where he didn't know how to respond when she said, I wish I could do something for you in return, that's the bratty kid. That's the immaturity of the character. I like the duality that this is a kid who's become a hero, who's had these hard, you know, knocks on him in life, doesn't have a whole lot of money. He's got all kinds of crazy influences like Freddy around him. I want to see him become more of a hero as time goes on. I want to see him make mistakes along the way. There's something about that I'm really finding engaging in the whole thing, because I find that, you know what, with this Zero issue, I really like him. Like, I've started to really, really like this kid. And I see the potential. I see what the Wizard saw. Like, in that moment where the Wizard's taking the chance and the roll of the dice, I'm like, I'm connecting with the Wizard there. You know, and that was really, really well done. This is the way you introduce this character. I've seen it on a bunch of forums, including our Facebook group. You know, people posted this one about seeing this as a solo. I want to see this as a solo series. I know he's going to be, you know, teamed up and all that kind of stuff. I want to read more of these characters, the supporting cast that they've created for this, monthly. I want this to be a monthly book. I'm heavy into, like, reading more of this.
Well, the concept that the Wizard was looking for someone of pure good to be the champion and never able to find it because it doesn't exist anymore. That's not what's out there. And the fact that Billy's, like, confronts the Wizard on this, and he's saying, hey, you're looking for something that doesn't exist, dude. And even the Wizard's like, okay, there's an ember of good in him. Is it enough? And it's that concept of what you're saying, how inside him there is a good kid. Well, inside Billy, there's that ember of good. And you fan the flames, and that's what, you know, causes your biggest fires. You know, right here, this kid's got the potential. This kid's got the possibility of being that great champion of good. that pure of heart and pure of will, etc. and whatnot. It's, he's got that potential, but life has been pretty nasty for him. Life has thrown him some curves. Life has made him a bit jaded. So you were going to get that imperfection. We're going to get that humanity in him. And I think that's going to be the curious side of seeing what happens to the world of magic, what happens to Billy, what happens to everything, because it's not cut and dry. It's not pure and simple. There is going to be the touch of gray in it. And where will that play out? Who will that, how will that affect things?
Can we talk a little bit about Pandora? Because I like that sequence at the end and her association with the wizard. Because we know now that, and that's one of the cool things about the way that this New 52 universe has been crafted. From the ground up, the magic world is deeply connected with, the world of this character that came over. She was punished. And because of that, she's one of these three, the Phantom Stranger, her, and the Question, that we're going to be seeing doing battle in that Trinity War. And I can't wait to see all that and how it plays out. And to see what side I'm going to want to be on. Because I don't know yet. I'm guessing Pandora. But I'm deeply loving what they're doing with Phantom Stranger right now, so I don't know how much I would side against him on this. I actually like the idea that they've each got very different philosophies, very different things driving them in the way that they're doing things. I'm deeply worried about who might be able to open the box.
Yeah. Well, my theory is, a child shall lead them. And I'm thinking Billy is going to be the key to opening the box.
But it says the one with the strongest of heart or the darkest. I think there's going to be multiple players, at least two players, the strongest and the darkest, rallying for it. What happens if the darkest opens it? I think that would get interesting twist.
Yeah. Yeah, it's And
I don't know that I'm not saying that that's where they're going to go, but I think we are going to see who could open it from the other side. Because I'm sure they're going to be questing for it. I wonder if the person who's got the darkest heart knows more about all this than the other person does. Do you think the person with the strongest heart, do you think it's Billy?
See, part of me is thinking yes. But again, I don't know. It's when we start dealing with the magic world and all that, I guess wrong, and I miss stuff. Yeah, I'll fully admit that I'm not when it comes to the magic stuff. I always kind of seem to be off kilter on it, and my initial gut is everything is saying Billy versus Black Adam,
or Superman versus Darkseid.
Superman Darkseid, yeah, that could be another battle as well.
Because we've seen the new gods being introduced. We've seen. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities, I think, on the dark end. Who would you say in the DC universe has the strongest heart? Is the strongest of heart?
Strongest of heart.
Right now, from what we've seen so far. Because I don't think Billy's there yet.
You're right. True.
Obviously.
True. Well, strongest of heart, I'll always go with Superman. Just because he's my guy. Now, other options could be tough call. I don't know. Yeah, see, I don't think it's gonna be Superman, to be honest with you. Just because I think it's so obvious that Superman would be that kind of he's Superman. Come on. So
I think you're right on. I think there's a possibility what you were saying about Billy and Black Adam's correct. Because I do think, from what we've seen of the storytelling of Billy, I don't think Billy's weak of heart at all. I think he's very strong of heart. I think that's how he survived. I think the stuff that we consider bratty is a shell protecting his heart. And I think, we're dealing with a little kid who's very shy of heart's not really the strong word. He's hiding his heart, I think is a better way to do it, from even himself. I don't think he could put a handle on it. Because, when I think he's having that argument with the wizard, I agree that he believes that, but I don't think that's who he is. I think the wizard peels off the layers and starts to reveal to us as the reader a little bit more of who he is from actions that were very isolated for us. But when you pull them all together, you see, wait a minute, every single time he's been faced with a real decision, he's, without thinking, done the right thing. And without pondering it, without weighing it, without, trying to look out for himself first, every one of those incidents the Wizard showed, think back to them and how they were presented. They were not presented in a way where he was looking out for himself first. He just did it. He just did the right thing in those moments. And I think it's very unique right now to characters in the DC universe. And I think it stands out more for me because it is such a bratty exterior. But when you see those moments, the demeanor of him, and that's where the art team has hit a home run with him, the demeanor of him is very different in those moments where he's doing things on the light side. And I really like that. There's something that's fresh about that. Yet it feels very Shazam to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, I'm hoping people that, had a experience. I'm not going to say I read every single, Fawcett Shazam comic. I've read a few in collections. I'm not an expert of the Fawcett Shazam. I will say that I've read in collections and in stuff I've gotten at flea markets and stuff. And I certainly read that stuff because I'm a fan of the character. But I wouldn't say I am the Power of Shazam that DC published is what I read from beginning to end, that whole series. So I've read that, the Jerry Ordway, which was fantastic. But I haven't read all of the Fawcett stuff. But I know enough about the Fawcett guy to be able to tell you, and what Johns did with him in JSA, to say that this is still, to me, the same at the core, that guy, that kind of concept. The kid's just not there yet. We're at the ground floor. I like being at the ground floor with him. I really am enjoying this ride.
Yeah, this was a great usage of a zero issue to give us this beginning, to give us this origin. And it's funny, before all of this started playing out, I wasn't a person who wanted a Billy Batson Shazam, so monthly. I was like, oh, okay, as I said, I had no passion, no connection, no real desire for it. But I'm in the same boat with everybody else saying, I wish we could get this a monthly. And we need the correct creative team on it. We need the correct writer who understands the duality that is Billy, who sees the shell of the kid, of the scared kid who's afraid of getting hurt, who's going to throw up this defensive mechanism, but in the end is a good kid. And as time goes on, he's going to wear down. That's going to wear down the shell. We're going to start seeing a funner, happier, nicer kid, both as Shazam and as Billy. We're going to see just what, is, true in his heart. We're going to get the real Billy Batson. And I think for me, the process of that unfolding, that just laying out and getting to see that is going to be would be a really cool adventure. And they've already done a great job introducing a strong supporting cast. Let's start fleshing it. Let's start working on those as well. This right here, this is set for a solo monthly right now out the gate. And I'd love to see it. I hope we get it someday.
I want to see more of the question. I like the way the question's being introduced. I love the use in this backup, which is, obviously it's going to be partially Justice League 2 because it's Justice League 0. Ethan Van Sciver did the artwork on it, colors by Hi-Fi. I really love the whole sequence. Poverty, wealth, makeup, dirt. The man with the hat and the girl with the guns. It's all connected. It's all a web. They hold the answers, don't they? Do you think they are going to be... it's called the Trinity War. Do you think that they're going to eventually have to come together because there's a bigger threat? Or do you think it's really going to be the heroes who are supporting them or are brought to their aid will eventually realize the error of the ways of siding with those respective three? I don't know, because we've seen the teaser artwork shows the two Justice Leagues battling, right?
Yeah.
Or at least the characters that will make up the other Justice League. I'm guessing it's the two Justice Leagues. I don't know. I don't know if they'll be the Justice League yet. The Justice League of America when that happens, the way that teaser image plays out. But I am dying to see that, especially with this build. This is definitely one of the things that I think has been really, really terrific about the way the DCU is operating. I think you've got always got some kind of event going on, whether it's a single title that has events going on, it's a group of books that has an event, or a universe that has an event going on. And I guess, would you consider this is the first universe-wide event, right? Because this is universe-wide, because it's appearing in the Dark books, it's appearing here. This is going to be pretty universe-wide, don't you think?
Yes and no. For me, I'm still considering this a Magic event. So I'm considering this the books that are connected and tied in with the Magic universe.
But why is it here in Justice League?
The Rot and the Green are right now in Frankenstein and and Swamp Thing. It's not we're not seeing a connection of the Rot in the Bat books. We're not seeing it. So for me to say it a universe wide, it's not affecting all the titles. It's only affecting one section of the titles.
What are you talking about? This is Justice League.
Yeah. But it's still.
But we Phantom Strangers over in the Magic world. The question to me, what books do you think he's going to be? Because to me, Pandora's the one that's siding with the Justice League. Who is the Question going to be siding with? He's not going to the Magic books. The Question's going to be building his own, or operating in his own place. Where is he going to go?
Not sure. See,
it's a Trinity War. I don't see that being. I think the Phantom Stranger is going to be. I think you're right in part of what you're saying. I think one piece of the puzzle. That's why I'm saying I don't know if it's going to be maybe necessarily whole universe wide, but it's not. It's going to be bigger than just the Magic line. It's here in Justice League.
Well,
it started in Justice League.
Because they're bringing in the Shazam into the Justice League.
Dude, this started back at Flashpoint. This started before the Magic books were even published. This is Pandora.
Yeah.
This isn't something that they just came up with now. This has been kicked in place.
This is the character, yeah.
I mean, and was heavily influencing the whole universe at that time. I think this is things that have. I mean, this is a girl who's appeared in every single title of the launch. Why? I think this is going to be the first. I don't universe wide of. I don't know what that's going to mean, but I don't think this is the ramifications of this. The way that this plays out, I don't think is going to be just felt in the Magic books. I think the Phantom Stranger portion of it, the way we're seeing him, what happened with Justice League Dark. I agree with you on that. I think Pandora, though, is going to be very much skewed towards not Billy, the Justice League as a whole. I think Billy is a big player in it because of what we saw with Shazam, but her appearances before that, she had ties with the Flash, has been observing the whole DC universe. And could that be because she's looking for the strongest of heart? Maybe. And maybe that is what's leading her to Billy. But I don't know. I mean, I guess, do you consider Billy a player in the Magic books then? Because I consider him more of a player in the Justice League books. But
right now, he's not because he doesn't. I don't think it's. See, it's one of those weird things with me, where when I'm starting looking at categorization, and for me to say a universe wide, I would need it. I don't think it's going to be affecting. It's going to affect the DC universe as a concept, but it's not going to be something that we're going to see a Batman connection to the Trinity War. I don't think
he's in Justice League.
But I don't think it's going to be in the. We're not going to see the Batman title that says Trinity War crossover. We're not going to see that type of connection. Well, Batman is going to be a part of it because he's in Justice League.
We haven't seen that with We haven't seen that with crossovers for a while.
Right. That's why. But it's still a universe. When I say Magic related, that's what I'm talking about. It's going to be in a couple titles where it'll say Trinity War, but it's not going to be a universe wide.
Oh, I disagree with you immensely on that. I think that because they said that something's coming. They've said that, and if you look at the timing, it's this year that something's coming. So I completely disagree. Now, I don't necessarily think that they're thinking of crossovers the way that they used to be thought of. Because we've seen that. I think this is going to be like Blackest Night, where it is going to be a whole sweeping universe thing. I think this is going to be more like a Blackest Night kind of thing, where there's going to be like places where you see the main story. So I do think we're going to see a Batman involvement in this. But I think we're going to see a Batman involvement in this because he's a member of the Justice League. Now, and I don't know that I agree with you that we might not, if it is going to play out in other titles, if it does that. I don't know that I think that it's necessarily going to do that, but if it does, I think we will see that. Look how many Bat books are being published. You're telling me one of them, if they're doing crossovers with this, couldn't appear with this? You could do Dark Knight.
Yeah, it definitely could happen. I just my thought process on this was it wasn't going to be that way. I could very easily be wrong, and
I'm not thinking of
cool
this. I'm not thinking of this as something that. See, I guess I don't see this as something that's going to cross over into. If it's crossover into any of the Magic books, I think it's going to be in Justice League Dark. Again, Justice League Dark. I think we're going to see it be in Justice League of America, and in Justice League, your Trinity. I think that's what we're going to see.
It could very easily be that. And this is one of those. Again, I don't know yet, and I'm still trying to get my hands on this, and I'm still trying to understand it. My initial concept when I first started thinking about this is completely different than what I'm thinking now. My initial concept was it was going to be, pretty much a Royal Rumble between the three, and winner take all. And now I'm like, no, it's got nothing to do with that. It's going to be more of like champions fighting on their side, and who's the champions for each of the different Trinity. And is Pandora going to have her own champion, or is she actually going to be one of the good, quote unquote, good guys in this mess? Because at the end of the Zero issue, the Wizard tells her, "We were wrong to punish you. You were just a young, curious girl who, you shouldn't have been punished the way you were. The other two, yes, should have been punished, but not you." And so there is, good. There is hope in her, and could she be the pure of heart that opens it? Could she be the force that keeps everything together and saves the universe? Possibly. There could be a whole nother side of this story that we haven't even started thinking of. And it's when I start thinking Trinity, when I start thinking this whole thing, my mind always slips back to the Magic. And that could be completely off, and I could be off kilter, and that's something as the story goes on. I'm like, I was an idiot. I should have done this.
Jim, the teaser had the Justice League. The Trinity War teaser had the Justice League fighting the Justice League. Where are you getting that it's only going to be in the Magic? I mean, there's nothing logical about what you're saying.
Exactly. 100% agree with what you just said. Nothing logical about what I'm saying. It's something that it's locked in my head, and I'm trying to push it out, and I'm trying to get, work through it. I fully admit it makes absolutely no sense.
Like, if that image was, let me say this. If that image wasn't released, if Pandora hadn't come over at Flashpoint, I would agree with you because of the amount of things that we saw with Phantom Stranger with Justice League Dark. I agree with you that there's going to be a magic element to it. I'm with you on that, especially when you've got characters like Shazam who come from the magic end. I don't think, though, that, first of all, let me clarify one thing. When I say universe-wide event, I'm not saying that there's going to be a 52-book crossover. I think that would be insane to do. I think what we're going to see, though, is an event that has ramifications on the universe. Justice League, when it kicked off, and the other series were introduced, you saw a clear sense that the Justice League was, and the events of Superman, and the way the world was viewing, these all had ramifications on each other. Some were felt very lightly in certain books, some were felt heavily in other books. But this theme of the universe comes from those events. And I think that's something that we've seen playing out in the various different books in the way that the public reacts to heroes and the universe in general, and how easy it is for them to turn on look what's happening with the Flash right now, for example. I think those are themes that have been introduced. I think whatever happens with the Trinity War is going to be more isolated in its presentation, because they're not going to force people to buy 52 books. I don't mean it that way. But I think the ramifications of this event, it's going to be pretty cataclysmic to the universe. It's going to have a major impact. I don't think it's going to be felt just in the Magic books. Not when you've got Hawkman fighting, Green Arrow. You've got Shazam duking it out with Superman. You've got, the new Green Lantern fighting the Justice League. You know, I mean, you've got like characters fighting each other. That to me was the teaser image that was kicked off when they've announced, and that teaser was for the Trinity War. So that's where I'm saying that I think everything you're presenting with the magic theme to it, I agree with that. I'm not saying there's no logic in that, but like to try and say that it's not going to these teams aren't going to be the heavy hitters in all this. It just doesn't make any sense because the teaser for Trinity War was the Justice League against the Justice League.
No, and I agree with you that it's, this is going to be something in the DC universe is going to feel. The universe is going to feel the effects of the Trinity War. The universe will be adjusted and augmented because of the events. And, it's... For some reason, I just got magic locked in my head, and I can't. I got to work through it. I got to work it out. When the story starts unfolding more and we start seeing it, I will probably hop on the air and say, "Okay, yes, I was a complete idiot," but I'm admitting I'm an idiot right now. Just for some reason, it's just locked in there for some reason, and I can't get it out, and I don't know why. And this is one of those weird things. It's a stupid stubbornness that I have sometimes where even though I have the evidence right in front of me and everything is 100% logic, I still go, but this. It's just that I need the switch to flip. And when the switch flips, then, it'll be, I'll definitely have, probably more intelligent comments to make. But it's weird. For some reason, when it comes to this, I'm just so locked in that, and I'm thinking there's going to be a magic story. I'm thinking it's going to be this.
But, dude, issue 6.
All the evidence is showing not.
Issue 6 of Justice League had the confrontation with Pandora and Phantom Stranger. I mean, if this was a magic event, why is all of this happening in Justice League? It just doesn't. I got nothing. I got nothing as to why, and we're sitting here having an argument, and you're like, it's like right in front of you.
Yeah, right here is what you're getting from me. It's, I read it, I see all the evidence, I say, yes, that makes perfect sense, John, that it's not. And then as soon as I say that to you, in the back of my head, it goes, but I think it's going to be really a magic focus event. I'm like, where'd that come from? Get out of my brain!
That's a scary place.
Yes, it is sometimes. Yeah.
I'm not saying you're an idiot, though. I think like some of the, the evidence of there being a magic involvement in this, I agree with. So a lot of the evidence you're laying out, I'm like, okay, he's right on his evidence. I mean, like the stuff that he's saying, he's just ignoring evidence.
Yes.
You're choosing to ignore evidence that there's more to it than that. So I'm not discounting anything that you're saying. I think that everything you're saying is actually there, but like you're definitely ignoring evidence. I'm loving this series of Justice League immensely. Here it is. It's issue number 12, coming in 2013. You see her in Justice League saying, "Open it. The Justice League cannot be trusted." And you see them, Superman and Batman, duking it out. "I have to do this, Bruce. So a new league must rise to stop the greatest war of our era, and it will take more than the world's greatest heroes to save us. And there's a division in the league due to what's going on leading up to this war with Pandora." I'm baffled by where you're coming from. The teasers are all in the Justice League.
Yeah, I know.
I thought the recent involvement of Justice League Dark made a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, you're right. There is a magic involvement there, but like, I clearly don't see this as only a magic event. I think it's a magic. I think there's magic characters involved, but I don't see it as a magic end of it. Animal Man, Swamp Thing, Justice League Dark event. I don't see that at all, which is really funny. Yeah. This is an incredibly geeky discussion. Let's switch to Atlantis and Aquaman #0, because a book that I would really love to shout out at being one of the absolute treasured highlights of this DC is this one. Jeff Johns, Ivan Rice, Joe Prado on art, Rod Rice colors, Nick J. Napolitano letters, Kate Stewart assistant editor, Pat McCallum editor. Aquaman created by Paul Norris. This book, every single issue, it's on my short list. And, I have a lot of trouble making out what are my favorite DC DCU books right now, because I think there's just a ton of quality being delivered. This is one of them. This is a AAA, but this is right up there for me. You know, I talk about how much I'm loving everything that's going on with the Bat books and the Death of the Family and stuff like that. Amen. I think that stuff's fantastic. What happens is I read issues of Aquaman where I'm getting that same quality right here. It's giving me those same moments. And it's up there equally. Earth 2 is giving me those same moments over there. Justice League, Green Lantern books, Flash. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on right now that's really the Animal Man, Swamp Thing, that whole stuff. It's Superman books are now coming up with this Hell crossover, because I think that's really bumped up, the Superman book in particular, because I was enjoying Supergirl and Superboy. The Superman book was a good book, but now it's becoming great. And this is like a lot of really cool stuff going on. But this Aquaman, this is when I rave about the Peter David run. It was because it was this kind of cool. Aquaman is cool. This is a cool book. I love the lore of Atlantis. I love the lore of his dual background. I love that he literally is a fish out of water, in the world. And not just in our world, but also in Atlantis. And not sure where he should belong. When you don't feel like you belong somewhere, I think everybody can relate to that. We've all had points in our time where we don't feel like, especially anybody who's comic fans. I think, we're part of that geek culture. We're the weirdos.
Yes.
And this is a book that is written for the weirdos. and I love that about it, because I just think he's a great character. There's a strength to him. Seeing him with his dad and, him saying, you got to find your mom. You got to tell her I loved her. His dying wish is for his son to, connect with her. But the tragedy of that story, of the decision she had to make to go back to her world and what that means. I just loved how this whole story played out. This kid who was hidden to protect himself by his dad. Could you imagine that? Like having this kid and like having to keep him away from the world, trying to make sure that they don't figure out the truth of the dual nature of him and where he's from. Because today, and you see it in this book, you get torn apart. The media is going to come after you. There's people that are going to speculate about you. And it's a very different world. That's something where the modernization of the DC universe and seeing these characters more at the ground floor now has really worked for me. That's where the whole 5-year thing is working. It's not so much that I really was, as a fan, saying that these characters needed to be de-aged. I don't know that needed to happen. Seeing it like this, though, and putting it into a very modern context with their origins being tied to modern technology. You know what I mean? Modern, the way that information is spread in a modern level. And that leading to the paranoia and talking behind their back and stuff like that you see with the media. I think that has been one of the joys of the New 52 for me, is it feels very today, it feels very current. To see, this is how heroes would be treated in our world today. And that's where these books, I think, have gotten very contemporary. It wasn't about getting rid of continuity. It wasn't about throwing all that stuff out the window. It was about making the characters feel relevant today. Aquaman as a title, for me, feels very relevant today while honoring everything that made it cool before. That's what I'm really digging about the New 52 right now, and it's titles like this that I feel are very relevant today.
Oh, big time. And since the beginning, the launching of Aquaman, this is the title we've been just raving about and cheering about and hooping and hollering over, because of the fact that this is a tried and true hero coming out, and you're seeing who he is and what he's about. And I still recall from that very first issue where he was at that restaurant, just that restaurant where he and his dad used to eat, and the comic book geek, our basically representation of us was sitting there harassing the guy while he's eating, asking the wrong question, just one more question, and it's just, that's the style and society, unfortunately, that we live in. And you see these people who take, you're a celebrity, so I can harass you. you're somebody famous. That means I've got carte blanche to ask you ridiculous questions and ask you say inappropriate things to you because you're in the limelight. Well, guess what? It's still a person. They're still entitled to their privacy. They're still entitled to live their life. And Arthur, he's been this kid who was, he didn't know who he was. He didn't know where he was, and just keeps getting thrusted into the limelight, keeps getting thrusted into a spotlight that he doesn't want, need, or should be put in because of outside forces. And it's something that, as the series has gone on, they're kind of explaining who these different people are, who these entities that have really just messed over Arthur's life, and how he's able to actually just rise up from it and stand tall because of it. And it's that nobility, it's that power, it's that pride, it's that strength of character that he's able to push through this stuff that has really connected me to Arthur and have really made me an Aquaman fan. Has got me going, yeah, this is awesome.
This is the double standard. It's true. And it's one of the areas where I will often agree with celebrities who feel that their privacy is violated a lot of times. This kid, take a look at this situation here. He's not a celebrity. He's just a kid who his dad was hiding out from society, whose secret was revealed by this Dr. Shin. That does not automatically... You can't make the argument that, oh, he goes to the red carpet, because that's often the excuse that's thrown in for celebrities being, and this is where I'm saying I've got a double standard going here. I love watching your TMZs or Yahoo News or Google or all that kind of, I don't really watch TMZ, but a lot of the stuff I find out about from TMZ, I'll find out from web pages. And, I'm one of the guilty people that, because of the fact that I pay attention to this stuff, like most Americans do, we breed the problem. Yeah. Because, as long as we're interested, there is a market for certain invasions of privacy. This story really, when I'm sitting there, I'm like, the sad part is I'm sitting here and I think this is atrocious what's happening to this kid. But admittedly, if it was on the news saying, hey, a half Atlantean kid was found, I would be sitting there saying, remember, he isn't Aquaman yet in this opening sequence.
Just a kid.
He's just some kid who all of a sudden this doctor revealed is half Atlantean. We as a society would be eating this up and following it. He isn't getting paid enormous amounts of money for being on a reality TV show. Or actually there's probably not, they don't get paid enormous amounts of money for being on a reality TV show, compared to actors and stuff. But even so, there comes a point where you say to yourself, what is your right as a citizen to know and not to know? Where do people have a right to have privacy? In this case, this invasion of privacy this kid's going through is exactly part of the problem. It is in our society nowadays because we have this immediacy to information. We want to know more. And there are people who will go and film and take pictures and sneak into places that they shouldn't be to violate that privacy. His dad's dying here.
Yeah.
And that moment, I don't care if you're a celebrity or whatever, that's a private moment. That's a sacred moment. And cameras should not be in there. I don't care how much you make on a film set or anything like that. And I'm throwing that in there as being, it's not okay. Taking the whole film set thing out of it, I don't care if you're half Atlantean. In that moment, you sit there and say, you know what? This is a kid who cares what his quirks are. He's having a moment with his dad. This is not the time and the place for these kind of questions. I was reading all this going, wow, I see both sides of it. I see why this is happening, and I see why this is bred, because this would get 1 million hits of people looking up and watching this footage. So I get why it happens, and it's a trap. It's a devastating trap. And I get why people get ticked at it if they're on the receiving end of it. I also see why it keeps happening.
Yeah.
And it's crazy nuts. That's where I'm saying I think this really works. It's a very today story, because this is exactly what would happen to him today.
Oh, God. And as disgusted as I am with what the violations and what the media is doing with just every possible story out there, I still watch. I still do that. If there was a story of some half Atlantean kid that was on, legitimate TV news, legitimate news, I guarantee I would be watching it. And I would love to think man, they should give that kid some breather. I'd love to think I would think that, but I know I'd be clicking, finding, see if I got any new information. Hey, anything else on the guy? Do we know anything about it? I would be eating this type of stuff alive. And it is who we are. It's part of human nature. It's part of the American culture. It's part of the basis of just that quest for knowledge. And sometimes we get so focused on it, we get so set to it that we stop looking at the consequences. And that was something that they really did a good job with Shin, showing that he was so focused on what he was doing, he didn't look beyond just that immediate circle. He wanted that recognition. He wanted that, I'm not a crazy old guy. I'm an actual legitimate scientist. Here's my proof. And he didn't stop and think what he's going to do, what kind of reveal that would have.
It didn't matter. Wait, Jim, it didn't matter to him. In that moment, I do think if you had told him it would have done this, but if you told him then, but it'll give you your notoriety, he still would have done it. Probably, yeah. Yeah. But that's the part. I think there'd be remorse, and I think we see remorse from him, but there's still, it doesn't justify, that doesn't make it okay. I think the very hard decision in today's modern society would be to make the decision to just leave this poor kid alone and not say anything. Because once Shin got the cat out of the bag, Shin was thinking to himself, I am going to be famous because of this. This is going to throw him on television shows. This is going to, it's really going to validate him. And, he was looking at a speaking circuit and things like that, My Life with the Half Fish Kid, and that. No, it's, in book deals and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, he had the stars in his eyes, and I think it was, the experience made him realize, and that's something we saw later on. And again, it's something I was really glad we got to see the remorseful guy, but it still doesn't. It still doesn't make up for what he did, because he ruined this kid's life. He got his father killed for all practical purposes. This is, a just completely wrong, heartless man. But again, as I say that, I don't want to say he's completely heartless, because, I understand why he did it. I disagree with what he did, and I'd like to think I would be strong enough of a character not to do it, but I understand why he did it. And I think that is the most gripping part of the Aquaman stories. That we get cool, great action sequences, but we also get these deep thought processes that are going from this complications of life, this duality where I understand why people are doing it. I disagree with it, but I understand it. And it's that kind of emotional roller coaster that I go through when I'm reading the Aquaman title. And that's something that I never would have saw coming. I never would even remotely thought this is something I'm going to get out of Aquaman. I was expecting a cool story. I was expecting some good fight sequences, some really good, bam, Aquaman stuff, because Jeff Johns is just this amazing writer for that style. It was weird. I didn't think I would be going down these emotional paths with him. I didn't think and it's something that I truly and deeply enjoyed from the title.
I loved seeing the bit with him and the shark.
Yeah.
And his first realization of his powers, not really understanding how they worked. That was something that I really, really loved. And then saving the ship. Gorgeous, gorgeous sequences, because one of the things I always loved about Peter David's one, we got a chance to talk with Jim Calafiore about his work with Gail Simone on Secret Six. And when we got to talk with him about that work, I had a chance to compliment him on his handling of Aquaman, because I really loved the vastness of the underwater world, the differences of operating in that world. And I think that's something that I don't know that an artist really knows what the impact is on the reader until the reader starts reading it, and getting a chance to experience that, because they're so close to it. I think, a lot of times you might not realize that, wow, this is going to have these powerful moments. I really, really dug every bit of this sequence, because you got to see everything that I love about Aquaman. The swimming, the strength of the character, the fact that it's not just about talking to the fish, it's that he is very powerful, he is very strong. The water density is something that, adds to his strength. That ability to be able to move through that like you and I would go faster than you and I would go running, affects him on the surface world. He's able to do things like grab ships and lift them like they're nothing. And he's also got that density of skin, that's different than ours, that he could almost take a bullet, and that's something where I like those distinctions. But then he's got that hard shell around him because of what life's dealt him. And the sense of he's also a ruler, and the rightful ruler. That's not something that he's blowing smoke at. He's the rightful ruler of Atlantis.
Yeah.
And I like that sense of, he's a king. There's something cool about that. It separates him from other characters. There's just little things that, like the situation where Volko is introduced. I always loved that character. He was the one with the white hair in the comics. I don't know how much you remember or how much of Aquaman you read, but you did read issues of Aquaman with Volko in it. It looked very different than this guy. And I love that character is being reintroduced into the New 52, because to me there's certain core elements of Aquaman's mythos and history that, like Mira and Volko, that do need to be introduced. That's when you start introducing Ocean Master, his half-brother, Black Manta being introduced. These are core parts to it. But then adding in these like supernatural fish, those creatures that were in that like hidden zone.
Yeah.
And adding this sense of just how large and vast the ocean world is. That's where now they're bringing in new things to the mythos as well, solidifying the things that are tried and true and how they work to today, while at the same time throwing in the others. I think have been a really strength. That group that he was a part of, and how certain members of them were being targeted, certain members died, certain members lived. They had this strong friendship with Aquaman. Aquaman had to make a choice of who he was today in that storyline. That was something I was really digging about this book. And now we're finally getting the payoff. And that was all before we got to start seeing Atlantis payoffs. This Zero issue was the first one that started saying to ourselves, hey, now you're going to start getting the Atlantis story. The stuff that we've been, for a year, we've been like solidifying who this guy is to you now. Now we're going to take you where you've been wanting to go. We're going to take you to Atlantis. We're going to bring that into the story. We're going to show you what the hierarchy is like in Atlantis. We're going to show you the half-brother who, what is his deal? Is he with Arthur? Is he not? And is he misguided, or is he using this to his advantage? Who's playing who in this situation? That's something that I'm really, really, because there's definitely a higher power at work here. Is it Ocean Master that's doing these things, or is it somebody else? Those are all things that, like, the questions that I'm constantly asking about this series since the beginning has been stuff that I've been really, really enjoying. It's a series that's had me on the edge of my seat, and it's been really gripping. It's been an event in a single title, all the way up till this point where now we're seeing a crossover with Justice League. And that's something I found kind of in, the Others thing was an event happening inside his own book. And I think that's the way a lot of these books should work.
Oh God, yeah. And it's funny with the development of Atlantis and just the backstory and how they're playing this out and how they've stretched out the introduction to Atlantis, the introduction to Atlantean culture, and just it's something that's always been there. It's been laid on the ground floor, but we really get to see, we start to see the signs of it, and we start to get an understanding after a year of it. They didn't open with this. This is something they let play out. They let us get to know the character. They let us get to know the hero, get a connection and a growth with him. And now they're telling us his backstory. They've done it with a lot of the Zero issues, with a lot of these reboots. And it's something that every single time when we read it, I always catch myself saying, way to go. This is how you got to do it. This is cool. And within this story of Arthur finding out about his heritage, finding out about his mother, his brother, and just how everything's just being played out to him, and his first arrival in Atlantis really had me excited and just going, dang, this is cool. And then we go from that right into the current stuff. I'm like, oh my God, this has been the kind of, again, I'm gushing some more about it, but this is the kind of story that I'm loving and I'm enjoying. And this is Aquaman. This is why this guy is so cool. And it has me, wanting a long, healthy run. It has me wanting to read a lot of the other stuff and just seeing how he compares. And this is one of the titles that I want to, pull up the old stuff from, reread stuff that I have, get new stuff that I don't have, and just, get, a more comfort level with Aquaman.
In Justice League number 15, the creative team from Aquaman shifts over to that book, and they're going to be the new Justice League creative team. The art team I'm talking about. Actually, the writers also already been writing it. I really loved that because to me it was like, from issue 0, you could technically jump right into Justice League, and you're being carried into that same crafted world that's been going on. But then you get that duality of then being on the Smallville farm with Clark and seeing him, how he becomes Clark Kent, messing up the hair a little bit, throwing on the glasses, being a little bit more casual, and just how living normally gives him a chance to kind of be under the radar. I like that he's teaching Diana about this, and she doesn't get why this would be a good thing to do. She doesn't see it, and he's trying to teach her that. The relationship between the two of them that's being developed in this series. I am old school. I love Clark and Lois. I want to see them eventually get married and all that. That being said, I don't care how long they want to keep these two together if they keep telling this kind of story, because I'm becoming a big Clark and Diana fan.
Oh,
I am really enjoying the exploration of these two together, and I don't need this to end anytime soon because it's really well done.
Oh, big time. And it's giving us glimpses of the human side of each of them, because Clark's had that human side. He's had Clark Kent. He is, that farm boy. Diana's never had that. So now we're getting to see why Clark Kent is so important, and it's not just through the words, but we're going to see it through Diana. We're going to see her understanding of who it is and what it's about, and like, hey, this is a good idea. I wonder, and maybe we're going to get a Diana Prince, secret identity develop out of this. Maybe we're going to get Diana's, her life is going to change and shift and whatnot. It's this again. Great superhero stories are them beating up big giant robots and aliens and whatnot. Amazing superhero stories are these, personalizations of them, where they become human, that you could see, and you're like, it makes sense that this Kryptonian would actually exist. This is realistic to me, that this guy who's from another planet would act this way. This complete suspension of disbelief in saying this could be a real person right now, right in this moment. And these moments between Clark and Diana are those real moments. And it's just like, even on the we have these wonderful, loving, real moments, and then we have these not so loving moments of Victor.
Wait, hold on. Before you go there,
okay.
Because I was giggling the whole time. First of all, I agree with everything that you're saying, but there was like certain parts of your discussion there where you were like explaining Clark teaching it to Diana, where you were talking about Clark getting in touch with his Kansas farm boy, and if I took those audio, like if I took from that segment where you said that straight up through to where you finished there, it sounds like you're saying that Diana finally needs to get in touch with her Kansas farm boy.
I think we all need to get in touch with the Kansas farm boy inside us. There is. Hold on, I'm gonna keep with this, because there is something about the quote unquote Kansas farm boy. There is something about just that mainstream, Americana, that is just that grassroots that makes Clark so awesome that. Mm-hmm. We all should have a piece of that in us. We should all have a little bit of that touch to us, and that it's the definition of what is truth, justice, and the American way. Well, the American way is that Kansas farm boy. It's that person who's going to look at, hard work pays off. That if I, get out there before this, I'm up before the sun's up and I'm back home after the sun's set, I put a full day in work, but you know what? You look at those crops. You look at what I've done. You take a look at the livestock that I've taken care of. This is life right here in my hands, and I am creating it. That right there is the Kansas farm boy.
Hey, I married the farmer's daughter, so I don't know what I did. My wife's family is from farm country, so I get it. It was just funny the way if you isolate it, and it sounds like you're trying to explain it, that she's finally getting in touch with her Kansas farm boy. I'm sorry, you're going to talk about the Vic Stone stuff, because I totally agree with you. Actually, I agree. I'm equally engaged in that. You're right. One of the things that I loved about this is you go to that gripping sequence with Aquaman, you go to that cool emotional sequence with Clark and Diana, but then you go to this Vic Stone sequence. And I'm sorry, I cut you off, so please continue.
Well, I was going to say how it's just that great flow through of you got the power and you got that love of those two, and then you go into this and it's that cold distance. And it's that father who, I feel bad for the dad, because we saw he was trying to save his kid, trying to help his kid. Did he completely think things through? Where's the line of right, wrong, mistakes, and can you say, oh, hey Vic, just move on, get over it? But that's pretty a tough one to get over, just a dramatic change that happened to him. But part of me does want to see them both, kind of accepted, because one, it'll help Vic out. If he's able to get on, if he's able to move on, if he's able to forgive his father, there will be a peace that he will get out of this. And as I see just this, the father reaching out, trying, and Vic's like, Vic is just, almost machine-like, if you will, in his dealings towards his father. And I loved seeing just this little bit of moments. And then that final panel, and there was that great panel where he's like, Dad? Just a little bit of concern. Now, is he concerned about his father? Is he concerned about what's going on in the universe? I think a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. And I love that little hint right there at that last panel. Especially, you get the look in his human eye.
Now, here's the question. His dad is saying this stuff to him. It makes me wonder what is going on with Dad. What does, and Vic catches that too. I really liked that moment ended that way, but then we're thrust into this whole battle. And not battle, but I mean the events that start to take place because of the missiles. The missiles being launched from the carrier. And who did that? That's going to be one of the things that I think is going to be really interesting in all this. Who is the puppet master in all this that's playing it? Is it his brother? I don't know that I feel that that's necessarily cut and dry on this. Do you?
Not really. And I think that's the great part of this story, that it's not initially you're going to think it's the brother wanting to wage war on the humans. Okay. But I start looking at that going, you know what? I don't think so. I think we're dealing with an outside entity. I'm thinking Darkseid popped in my head, but I don't think so. The government, of course, always jumps in my head. Waller and or Edling, and just all the variations of dark, evil people who are associated with the government can throw it out there. But I think we got a completely new entity that we don't know about yet. I think this is going to be an introduction of a third party or an unknown party, because you take a look at what's going on. That opening sequence with the missiles dropping on Atlantis. Innocent Atlanteans were dying from that. So if Orin really wants a war on the surface, he would have done it differently, where he didn't have such a high body count, where he didn't have as many injuries and deaths of his own people. He would have done it where the missiles just missed and gone with the attack, or been in a spot where their defenses could have stopped the attack and saved lives. Right now, I don't think it's him. I think he's reacting. It's somebody who knows how he would react. So it could be an Atlantean. It could be somebody associated with the Atlantean culture. But part of me is thinking we got an outside entity, an outside force.
What if it's multiple outside forces? I had a crazy idea, and this could be me going way out there. If you take a look at what's happening now with Aquaman, this could cause a rift between him and the Justice League. Look what's happening with the Batman in his world. Look what's happening with Superman in his world. Look what's happening in Wonder Woman's world. We got a lot of stuff going on. What if there's a formation of like a Legion of Doom kind of thing going on here? And what if it's more than one person behind all of this stuff? What if there is a link somewhere to all this stuff that's happening? And I'm not saying that I'm 100% sold on that, but there was part of me thinking to myself, wow, wonder if, if you take a look at what's happening there, who is the outside puppet master pulling the strings? Now, it could be that this is just isolated the story, and there's a big part of me that's thinking that too. So I'm not sold that possibility, but that was me, and I do admit that that's the wackier possibility, because I'm more in line with what you're saying, that there is a big bad pulling the strings. It's probably more isolated to this story than anything else. But when you see the battle between Superman and Batman that was in that teaser way back when, it made me wonder, what is going to cause that between those two? What's going to cause them to go to blows? And I don't know. I'm very curious to how this whole thing is going to play out. What will cause the rift between Superman and Batman, who are two people that have said that they've respected each other. They consider each other friends. They trust each other. So what is going to cause them to go to blows in the New 52? And I don't know. I'm really digging, trying to see if this Throne of Atlantis story is going to end, or if it's going to be a prelude event that will lead into things like the Trinity War.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I don't think your Legion of Doom, theory is crazy. That would be a wonderful way to introduce the Legion into this.
The Cheetah. Take a look at the Cheetah story. Yeah. The way that ended. Yeah. I'm not saying that I necessarily think what the Joker's doing is connected with this. I'm just looking at timing-wise. I think because I was saying that, I started looking at other events going on in the DCU and wondering to myself, are any of those going to wind up somehow being connected to this? Death of the Family, I think the Joker's too chaotic to be a part of all this. But I do think the stuff that we've seen previously in the Justice League could be connected to this, though, like with the Cheetah. Yeah. I can't help but wonder if what she was doing back then isn't somehow a part of this now. I don't know.
This would be a great Lex Luthor story.
Sure.
If Luthor was behind it all. Think about it. Just, because if anybody could pull it off, he could. He could be the organization. He could be the one who knows where Atlantis is, and he could be the one to know how to, rig up the missile launch, and
especially with Black Mana's help.
Yeah.
That's where I'm wondering, what's really going on here. I don't know.
Yeah. And anyways, I throw out Luthor's name just because it's Luthor, and I would like to see that. But I'm thinking something else out there. I don't think it's any. I'm really leaning towards the fact that Orin is not the bad guy in this. His city, his people were attacked. You drop a couple nukes on somebody, they're gonna react. And you know what? To him, that was a declaration of war. You think about Pearl Harbor. That was launched. The attack on Pearl Harbor. You think about 9/11. You think about any time that a society has ever been attacked with this extreme force, or any type of just that there's that desire and immediate for retaliation. And you don't just retaliate with with the same level happen to you. You respond with superior force. So, you drop a couple nukes on me, I'm going to flood a couple of your cities. I'm going to level the surface world. You want to dance, we're going to dance. And it's that I immediately had that connection. I immediately said, again, makes sense what he's doing. This is. He's not going to go, let's send an emissary and see if they meant to nuke me. No, we're going to send our army. You attack me, I'm attacking you back. And I like seeing how that played out. Now, granted, I'm not happy that a lot of innocent people die. I never enjoy that part of a story. But when you're reading a story, it is, fitting, and it is true to what would happen.
This is exactly why you're the Duke of
How many? 6? 7?
100. Totally agreeing with everything you're saying there. I loved the Batman sequence where Vic is contacting him in Gotham City. Because that's something where I really like the sense that when this is happening, because of the fact that it's affecting big cities, and the premise is to do the most damage to one of the big cities and to sink it, to send a message, Gotham would be one of the targets. And when Batman has that sequence, I love the bit where he says, and I'll call your father and tell him you're all right. You don't need to do that. Batman doesn't even respond, just says eject. Which leads me to believe he's still going to do it. It wasn't no longer up for discussion. We're not going to have a big debate over this. That's what's going to happen. I will contact your dad. Done. I have no doubt that Batman did exactly just that. Or, planned to do exactly just that when the time presented itself. And then we see Aquaman showed up on the scene and finally get to see these two people, connect with each other. I loved when Mira showed up there. I got to tell you, Mira's handling, we talked about her back in Blackest Night, how she was an MVP there. And, then loved seeing her in Brightest Day with Aquaman and how that worked. She is a character who really has benefited from being brought back. And the transition to the new universe for her and Aquaman has been flawless. These really are the same characters from Blackest Night and Brightest Day being brought in. Yes, they're de-aged a little bit in the sense that, the old Aqualad is no longer around. The new Aqualad is no longer around. That's a concept that's going to be introduced. But these are clearly in tone and presence those same characters. And I think that is what's obviously Jeff Johns writing them, but they are characters that really, other than de-aging them for the purpose of their story, making it current and into today for this was great, but you don't want to take away any of the tone that worked in those books, because these are exactly the two characters how I want to be reading them. And there was something in that moment where she showed up, I'm like, yeah, Mira. Yeah. If you told me when I was a kid, I'd be sitting there going, man, how cool Aquaman is. I love Super Friends, don't get me wrong, and I loved Aquaman on Super Friends. But I never thought I'd be sitting here saying to myself, I was the Batman guy watching that show. And I loved Aquaman. I loved the whole team concept because it was great to see him, as Batman and his friends. For me, that's, and I'm sure Superman fans, it was Superman and his friends. I didn't have that attachment for Aquaman until I read, like I said, Peter David's run, and I really got into the character. This is what I want to see from Mira. This is exactly, and I want to see this relationship last. I love seeing these two come over things together. When he shows up, you expect her to... to me, I don't know that they need an Aqualad right now. Because to me, these two together, I don't know that we need a sidekick getting in the way of it at the moment. I want to see more development of their relationship. I think down the road, I'd love to see an Aqualad, sure. I just don't know that I want anything diverting from seeing these two dealing with their issues together. Because I think that's what's really working in the book for me.
Oh, I'm complete agreement with you. You all know I'm a Mira fan, and she's been, again, the Blackest Night. Just from then on, I wanted a Mira series. I was like, forget an Aquaman series. Let's just do her. Let's have her in there, and just have her dealing with the world and whatnot. So just having her in this title and having her have such a prominent role has been just absolutely stellar. And I love the fact that she's in the Justice League title, because it makes sense that she's got to be there. Part of it, this is all, part one for part two, which was later, but it's just the fact that she's a character that's not being forgotten, that's not being put aside. She is forefront, right up there with Aquaman. She's just as important as her and Arthur's relationship is just as important as Diana's and Clark's, and Bruce and, whoever Bruce is going to have, if ever, a little bit of a relationship. One day he'll have some positive in his life, but it's, you get to see, again, that side of her, and you get to see another growing hero. She's not the superhero. She is this Atlantean warrior. She is this, princess, queen of Atlantis, or however you want to refer to her as. She's starting to understand the human. She's starting to understand why Arthur is around these humans and why he fights and protects these humans. But it's that growth of a hero in her as well. And we see her step up in this issue. We see her, really throw out the magic and really go above and beyond to try to save innocent people. And I love those moments where she tries, she can't save everybody, and you can see how it affects her that she couldn't save everybody. You see the pain and torment. She's not just this Atlantean who has no connection to humanity. She's now starting to get a connection to humanity.
I like that Batman thought that Arthur was coming because of the ship.
Yeah.
And that led into the date where we see, Clark and Diana having this moment where she's like, Clark, this actually works. I love that sense of wonder. Like, inside, we know the intensity of everything that's surrounding these events when people are appearing in this story. But they managed to fit in those smile moments, those ones where you just kind of go, yeah, that's cool and all that. Then you hear the rumble. This is a job for us. I was geeking out something fierce in that situation. I said it before to you. I was not when the super suit was introduced, I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about that. It's suit of armor on Superman. Like, do we need that? The way it forms around him now, I think is the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Like, this suit has so grown on me now, and I really needed the story where we got to see its origin. When I saw the origin, I became a fan. I loved seeing the lasso. Diana's using the lasso to switch into her outfit.
Yeah.
I want to see more of these two in, like, trying to do the civilian thing from time to time, because I think it's important.
Well, I thought it was a cool sequence when we see Lois.
Yes.
Seeing that, and Superman and Wonder, and you can kind of just see it click in her head, like, hey, they both arrived at the same time. Is there something going on here? I love that kind of that introduction of a possible, jealousy, and I'd love to see Lois see Clark and Diana together, and have her just like, hey, Clark's got somebody in his life now. What's going on here? I think it would be, again, I'm a fan of the Lois and Clark story. I want to see them together, but take your time, guys. We're getting some cool stuff here. Let's enjoy what we got going on.
Well, and I love that those are things that are playing out in the Superman books.
Yeah.
Like, that's everything you're saying right now is like really being carried over into those titles as well. Because with Lois moving in with her boyfriend, these issues have come up. And we won't go too much into that now, because we'll be touching on that later this month when we start taking a look at the Superman books for his big crossover that's going on. But it's relevant to talk about it here, that those are things that are being echoed over there as well, what we're seeing here. Volko saving her, and I love that Clark is noticing that, because he would key in on Lois.
Yeah.
And, checking to see if she's all right. And because that's somebody who's still important to him. It just all played out really, really well. And I'm with you. I want to see him with Diana. I would love to see him run into Lois there, them to have to deal with that part of the relationship. And I don't know, out of the two of them, who I would more want him to be with right now. Because I really like that he seems to be adding some sort of stuff that I guess we always used to like exclusively thrust on to Steve Trevor. Some of that stuff she's getting from Clark now in a way that Steve Trevor could never help her understand, because Steve Trevor never had to deal with like having a secret identity. Steve Trevor had a relationship with her as Wonder Woman. He didn't get to know her as Diana, which Clark is bringing about the Diana side of her, that identity to her, this sense of this is what it's like when we don't have to be, like the way that she would be on her island when she was there before she came to our world, or to our land and started, living here and going through these things. That's the part of the sequence that I really adored, was this sense of Clark introducing her to a new way of just being comfortable and being yourself for a little while without having to be caught up into all that. I like the idea of her maybe wanting to develop that. These protocols that Aquaman created, this kind of goes back to something that Batman had an issue with. We trust these heroes to be these brilliant strategists that try to deal with colossal world tragedies. And you expect, like, Batman has protocols to protect Gotham from extreme situations. But what happens when you create these protocols at a time where you're looking at your potential enemy being us?
Yeah.
and you create these protocols and somebody gets a hold of them. Like what happened with Batman. I mean, this was something Batman had to go through with Brother Eye way back when. And I always liked that sequence of events because it was this master strategist who came up with these ideas and these protocols, but there's a consequence when somebody else gets their hands on them. This is what's happening here. Somebody else has their hands on Aquaman's protocols. And because of that, now this sanction is going to be kicked into place. They're going to make an example of man's world, or the surface world by, yanking down one of them. Their intention is to yank down one of the cities. And that sequence at the end with the Atlanteans there, I just think that's just some really beautiful artwork.
Oh, God, yeah. It shows, we get a really cool idea of the scope and just the magnitude of what's coming. This is one of those, okay, strap in. It's coming down and it's going to hurt. And this, just to think about just the concept of you got to lay these protocols. And he built this stuff. And it makes perfect sense that they would have to do this, that they would come up with this, that they would, create what if the surface world declared war on us? Well, our advantage is the fact that they have to get through the water to get to us. Our advantage is that they can't breathe, in the water, so we, flood them out. We, use our strengths, use our advantages as our massive weapon. And, right there, that's tidal wave. Very effective against coast cities. Now, granted, you got your more inlet cities aren't going to be as affected, but you wipe out the eastern seaboard, it's gonna put a hurt on the country. You level you pick one city and you sink the entire thing into the ocean. Guess what? That's going to be a pretty much a game changer. And I loved the fact that he came up with these concepts. They came up with this protocol, and the fact that it's there and they're acting it out, and Arthur's like, I know this. I wrote this. We have a problem. And I love just that whole sequence that played out there.
When we get to the Billy story in the back, we've got Gary Frank back on art on this one, and I love this bit. They don't have any money. He hasn't really established himself as being a superhero. That concept's kind of a screwy one in this world right now, what that looks like. They've got powers and the opportunity to use them, and not really a direction. He hasn't had time with these powers to really sit down and soul search and say, what do I want to do with this? Who do I want to be with this? So he's hanging with Freddy, and one of the two of them thinking, I'm hungry, and this is a chance for him to use these cool powers in a way to help them. I like the idea that I'm convinced that if he could have found a way to just take a certain amount of money out of the ATM, I'm not saying that makes it. Yeah. I'm not saying that makes it justified because it doesn't. But these aren't guys who are looking to do the big. Well, I think Freddy would look to do the big score a lot more than Billy would. But they're both freaked out when that electricity kicks out, not knowing that it would. It won't stop the machine. It keeps coming. The money keeps on coming. Even Freddy's saying, wait, let's turn this thing off. Leading into a robbery. When the robbery kicks, again, no hesitation. He stops in to stop the robbery. That was something that at the end when they're walking away and they've only got, a certain amount of money with the two of them, that really stood out for me as Billy's reaction again. When faced with a horrid situation, he does the right thing on instinct. It's subconscious. There's not really a big thought. You don't see these thought balloons where Billy's saying, what should I do? What should I do? I want the money, but this person's in danger. That never is even a thought. He just goes and does the right things in those moments. So I love that he's flawed. I love that he's vulnerable. I love that, when he's ripping off the ATM, you're sitting there saying, what are you doing, you bonehead? But when it comes down to serious situations like that robbery that's going on, he doesn't say to himself, that's what we were just doing at the ATM, because he wouldn't look at it that way. But he's looking at them and going, I can put a stop to this, and this is what I'm going to do. This is how a hero's being built. And I'm going to love the point where he's going to sit there and say, I can't do these things again, rip off an ATM or things like that. This is who I am. This is the guy who I am. Because that realization is going to, and I think that realization is going to kick in pretty soon.
Oh, God.
Because of how much more these events are happening. And he's starting to develop a reputation for himself of who Shazam is. And that's something that I think is going to be great.
Oh God, yeah, and I love the fact that he's stumbling on these crimes, and even the the mirror lady is telling him this being where you're needed is a good thing for a champion. Being at that point in time where you can be called upon it's a good thing. And he's like, and Billy doesn't completely get the concept of that he's a champion. He doesn't get the understand. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know what's playing out. And it's that that kid mindset. It's that he's not looking beyond what's currently in front of him. He stops the one robbery, and the guy goes, "Hey, what can I do? All the junk food I can carry." Just a kid blurt out reaction. Later, he sees the guy hot wiring the car, takes him and throws him. And later on, he kind of is a little snotty with Freddy, and he immediately says, "Oh, that's wrong." But it's still, there is that growth process. There is that kid in there who doesn't completely, know what to do with the powers he's been given, and it's that connection. It's that endearing quality that I want to help this kid out. I want to be his mentor. I want to drive around in a Winnebago with him and tell him what to do.
Yeah, that would be really cool. The moment where he realizes he can fly and Freddy's in his back yelling "awesome," I want a poster of that.
Yes.
I so want to see that, because that, to me, and creators are getting really, really good at connecting with that childhood geek of theirs, because I'm seeing these moments, and it's really important that when they do moments like this, you use them at the right times. You don't overdo them. I geek out at them when they're like this. When you got a Freddy on the back of, Billy there screaming awesome, and you see that boyish grin on the face of Billy. It looks classic and modern at the same time. Sure, his costume's been modern up and all that stuff, but that is, to me, every bit of what, I know he's called Shazam now, but that's what Captain Marvel is to me. That's who that character is. I love that character to death. That's plain awesome.
Oh, God, yeah. And I like the fact that they're using the lightning.
Yeah.
In other stuff, because you see the energy zap out of the chest, but then even out of his feet. So it's kind of like he's flying because of the lightning arc, and and it's I like that, and the fact that he was able to shoot the lightning out into the ATM and get it to spit out the money. The fact that they're playing around with a little bit of the powers. It's not just cut and dry, strong, fast, wisdom. It's there is an unknown factor that he's going to have to get going. He didn't come with an instruction manual, so he's got to figure it out as he plays out.
I like the bit with Freddy and him over the debate of being a kid versus being an adult. Billy's, like, I'm an adult now, so maybe I should be doing adult things and stuff like that. And that's really a kid or an immature. I think there's a lot of adults that do stuff like that. I think that's really an immature viewpoint. And Freddy's called him on it. Yeah, you're a lot like a lot of the adults, because their experience with adults has not been positive. It's a lot of abandonment and a lot of, being alone and being let down and being failed and being selfish. And Billy's being selfish in that moment. Freddy calls him on it, and I like that it was really clear. Freddy leaving bothered Billy. He just caught on to all that. And I think these are the building blocks, the stepping stones to us finally getting a Billy who recognizes that he's a good guy, he's a hero, especially when he's going to be the cliffhanger, Shazam versus Black Adam. I so want to see that.
Yeah, that's not going to go well for Billy, because Black Adam knows what he's doing. He knows he's comfortable with his powers. Billy has no idea what he's doing, and part of me, I want to see how that plays out, because I'm equally excited for it, but I wonder if this is are we going to see more of the hero? It's like, what's going to happen next? I got so many thoughts that could possibly run through my brain on this, but Adam can't completely win here. It'll be way too quickly. But how does Billy, who doesn't know what he's doing, get through this?
And that's one of the things I think is going to be. Here's the funny thing is, with you being a Black Adam fan from the old universe, does this feel like you're Black Adam?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely has that same type of that feel to him. Now, I always liked the Black Adam, who was more of the ruler, who it wasn't about evil conquest or anything like that. So that, and this guy, he's not that same Adam. This one to me seems a little bit darker, seems a little bit more evil, bad guy, Black Adam. But to be honest, we've just really had an introduction to him. We don't know his solid backstory. He could be another one of those guys who was kind of screwed over by the Council of Magic. He could be another victim in this, and who knows, down the line, maybe he will eventually turn more into the, you know what, you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone type of character. And that was something I always liked about Black Adam, that if everybody would have just left him and his country alone, there wouldn't have been any problems. But these people, they got to throw down. They got to go where they shouldn't be, and they have to, push the envelope. And that's what I'm kind of curious what's going to happen eventually with this Black Adam. Is he that kind of guy, or is he the more pure evil darkness?
We take a look at Aquaman number 15, and you take a look at the Gotham sequence now, and we're getting more of a depth to it. Literally. I didn't mean for the bad pun, but it just kind of fit. Because you see Harvey and Gordon in the water, and, they're saved by Aquaman. Batman is there helping out. They're talking about the people that were saved, but then the question comes up, how many didn't make it? And the moment with Mira, when she comes out of the water, the nosebleed. One of the things that I think really impresses me is what I love about Batgirl. What do I love about that book? It's this sense of it's not always a clean win. And it's not, sometimes, like in this case, do you consider that a win? Well, the amount of lives she saved, yeah, I would consider that a win. But it's not a total victory. And I think sometimes, we grew up with a lot of 100, and you want from heroes sometimes 100% clean win. You want to see that moment where it's dun-da-da. You always do that with the Superman thing, so I'm stealing that one from you. And I agree with you. You want to see those clean, clear wins. But there's these moments like this, and I know you agree on this, where you see this moment with Mira where she's devastated by the amount of people that she can feel because of her connection with the water, that elemental powers of hers. She can feel how many didn't make it. So all this coolness that she did, the amount of lives that she saved, that wasn't what was on her mind. What was on her mind is the ones that she couldn't. That stuff is, and the ability to be able to carry on after that, to still be able to step up to the plate. That's something in Batgirl I really have enjoyed in this initial run of this current series, and it's something I'm really enjoying here with Mira. That's a strength of character to be able to continue on when you put all that work in, and it's not all about the reward that you're getting, intrinsic or otherwise. It's about finding the strength in you to keep trying to do the right thing, to keep trying to carry on, to keep trying to stand for what you believe in. And Mira in those moments is faced with that, having to deal with that situation. I like that stuff. I just get very into it. It makes me connect with the character even more. And the two of them being there for each other, I think, was a real strength. She has him to rely on. And I think it's an important message that we all need to make sure to rely on those people in life. Because I think in life we all hit bad moments. We hit moments where, it could be something as simple as a bad day on the job, some bad thing that's going on for a family member or something like that. We need to remember, with all the craziness that goes on in our world, to rely on those close to us that we know will be there for us, and to vocalize some of this stuff. Because she does this with Arthur, and I loved it, because I really thought it was a cool message that's very contemporary and current right now. And I think it's something moving forward in 2013 we should all remember, to rely on those people that are close to us that will be there for us, and to be those people to rely on as well. Not for it to be one-sided, to keep those door opens for others. Because look what happens with our heroes when they do that. They find a way to persevere. They find a way to carry on. And it was cool. I don't know, just something I really, really enjoyed in that sequence. It said a lot in a very short span.
Yeah. And it said a lot in the artwork. And, you got a lot, of course, great dialogue and great going back, but the looks on Mira, the artwork of Mira, her face, her reaction, just the pain, and then just that resolve. You see that sad, that sympathy, like the bodies. I can't believe. But then that last panel, you see the resolve of the character. really coming out. And it's, again, another reason I love this character so much is because of who she is and, you know, what she's able to do and how she stands tall. And it's, again, this was a really wonderful sequence just for Aquaman, for the universe, for the characters, as well as seeing the heroes deal with the tragedies. I loved the whole Metropolis sequence of, you know, with Clark and Diana doing what they could, and then even the aftermath with Volko, you know, how he's, you know, needs to get to Arthur. The whole play out was absolutely wonderful because he has that gut reaction that they usually have where he starts swinging before he swings before he thinks, but then Diana's right there. You swing again, so do I. Sword to his throat. I loved that moment. I cheered for that moment just because it was a perfect, you know, Diana moment, and it made sense that he would react to that, saying, okay, maybe I need to calm down here. Maybe we need to, you know, just let's start over again.
I should note, too, that the art team did switch on this one. It's Paul Pelletier and Art Tiber with Carl Kessel on inks. And it's a cool switch because I think they're doing a really great job. The color has stayed the same for this issue. And it was something I really loved, the switch in the art team and the fact that it added a new... Because we knew that the team was switching over to Justice League. It added something new to this book, but yet thematically it feels the same in tone as the stuff I was reading in the issues before the team made the switch. So they made a good choice on the art team for this book. I think they've really kept it feeling very consistent to the style that I was enjoying before. And it's tough on an art team when you're in the middle of something big like this to make that switch. Because you're not really getting a chance to begin something totally new, like a brand new status quo or something like that. This is really something that's been building since issue 1 of the series, subtly, behind the scenes, leading to this big event. And because, you know, Atlantis has been kind of the thing under the radar for all of us.
Yeah.
The debate between Batman and Aquaman over the war plans. Realistically, Arthur saying that, Batman, I considered you a threat.
Yeah.
You know, I knew how dangerous you were. And, you know, at the time, you know, yes, you were a legend and all that, but I knew that if I needed to take something down, I needed you out of the way. So I considered you that much of a threat. The debate was really great because it felt like, you know, this massive show of respect, but then also, oh, you got to be kidding me. You know, they're in the middle of dealing with this. I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
Oh, big time. And I do like the fact that Arthur's like, hey, you got to understand, this is, you know, they wouldn't just do this blind attack. Something's going on here, and Arthur's looking for information. Arthur's trying to figure out, hey, this isn't, he's not justifying all the deaths of all the innocent lives, but he's like trying to explain this, you know, the nuclear strike, that was the first attack in their mindset. And I loved the fact that he was in that position and how he was handling it. He wasn't backing down, but he wasn't being a jerk about it. There is a level of respect. There is a level of, you know, communication and just understanding. And it was cool to see Bruce listening in and actually accepting some of the answers, not blindly accepting it, but he was still, you know, listening, and it wasn't just like Bruce wasn't turning off his ear saying, this is wrong. There is both sides to every story, and Bruce, being the master detective, has to look at all sides of it. And Bruce was the perfect person to have this play out with.
I love that Bruce is trying to piece together all of the elements of his planned attack, too.
Yeah.
Those creatures escaping and being set free, you have to wonder who set them free. You know, what was the purpose behind that? Why target them?
Well, that was the one trident, the one Atlantean relic that freed them, right?
Was it that or the blast?
I thought it was the previous issue of the Atlantean trident freed them.
See, and I part of me thought that too. This was more something I was genuinely throwing out to you to say, what do you think this is? Because I'm with you.
Because the blast was on Atlantis, not on the Mid-Atlantic.
I guess, where is the location of Atlantis?
Yeah.
I guess that's what my question is on that. I was with you that I thought it was the Trident too, but then I started wondering if the blast was a part of all this conspiracy. I guess it runs into... Wait, I'm looking over here. You're right, it is. I'm just looking back at that previous issue. You're 100% correct. It was from the Trident, so...
Okay.
Because the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. But who's doing that with the Trident?
Yeah, see, when that played out, I thought that was Orin. But then as everything's playing here, I was like, is he really behind all this? So again, that's where I came up with the idea.
Or did somebody get a hold of the Trident?
What?
Or did somebody get a hold of the Trident?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm very, very curious to see how this all plays out. Terrific series of events there. I'm trying to think of if there's anything else. Is there anything else Aquaman-wise or that you wanted to mention?
One of the things that I did like how when they start getting everyone together and the League starts getting and Aquaman's trying to explain the strategy and what's going on. It was interesting seeing the different members of the League saying, no, he's got to stand trial. He's got to come in. He killed innocent people. This was an accident. And it is Bruce who steps up saying, no, let's see how this plays out. You can have the meeting. And it was that whole, giving Aquaman the chance, but they never really, it wasn't like a blind chance. They were monitoring the transaction the whole time. And then as soon as it turns, to a little bit darker or to a spot where they're not comfortable, boom, they're in there. And great setup for the next issue of the fight between the Justice League and Aquaman.
Here's my question. Do you think he and Batman set that up? It's kind of funny with the amount of time the two of them spoke together. Could this be a swerve where they set this up together?
It definitely could be. And I wouldn't put it against Batman to say, okay, here's what we're going to do. Or Aquaman even come up with the idea. You guys, we make it look like the fight. That way you can go down to the surface and figure out if it's your brother. I'll deal with on our side and figure out who actually launched the missiles.
And I don't know that that's the case here, but I could see that being a possibility. I just thought it was real interesting. I liked the conversation between the two of them and the reason why Batman let him do what he did because of the respect. But that moment I kept wondering to myself, did Batman and Aquaman set that up on purpose? Because it's funny, out of all the Leaguers that he goes after, there's three of them there. It would make sense that he'd go after Batman because, he's the human. But it's also very interesting considering the amount of time the two of them spent connecting and talking. The timing's very interesting. I don't care if I'm right or wrong there. I love that, I'm geeky and speculating on this book because this crossover is making me really happy. And it's funny how it is more like a true crossover because they are going from one book to the other, and I'm liking that a great deal in the way that's because it's different and it makes sense with these two books. It's the same writer. Why wouldn't he do that? And we're getting this story, this big epic story. 2 issues have been put into place, and it's really just a prelude at this point. It's just kicking off. Yeah,
this is the beginning of it, and This is a story that I am excited for. This is another one of those that when the next part comes out, I'm going to jump on it. This is at the top of the stack. This is a death of the family hierarchy right now, just because this has been such a great story. This has been such a great lead-in, and these have been 2 titles that I'm really deeply enjoying. So I'm getting a best of both worlds going on right now.
Yeah, it's that caliber of event.
Big time.
Very different. And what I love about it, it's very different in its tone and its presentation. It fits the book that's being presented, but it feels big, it feels epic, it feels like the events matter, and that there's going to be ramifications to them. So, that's really important in an event today. No matter how isolated or how widespread it is, it should feel like there was a relevance and it matters to the ongoing narrative. And I'm really, really excited to see where this one goes, it's really great to have books like Justice League feel like it's on the short stack again. Because I've always enjoyed Justice League. I've always loved the mixture of the characters and all that. I don't know. I don't have a run that I've read where I felt it was a bad run. But here's the thing. I think there's short lists of runs that are great runs. And to me, Justice League is at its best when they feel like they are DC's flagship team. They are the Satellite era. Why does it have such fond memories? Because you felt like you had all the heavy hitters doing these amazing things. Morrison's run. All these heavy hitters doing these amazing things. And now this is a chance for them, and has been a chance for them, to rework that thinking to a modern-day version of the Justice League, having the heavy hitters again involved. The players that you expect to see, and it really, really works. It feels like these are the go-to team in the universe, even with how dysfunctional they can be together. I like that, too. I like it's not perfect and clean, because the Satellite League wasn't. The JLA wasn't. They had those issues. And to me, there's a lot of strong character development being told here that is going to have ramifications for both of these characters. Our new art team is really, really doing a bang-up job.
You know what? And actually, that's something that, has to be said, that it is a new art team, but it wasn't jarring. There wasn't any, shock and awe. You could see different art styles. They are their own person. But it was this was a great, team to pull into this book, that it fit, it flowed, and going from reading Justice League right into reading Aquaman, there was never any, disconnect or hiccup for me. This was a complimentary, as well as some very cool looking, beautiful artwork. So this was another Ace's home run for me, that I'm getting a great story. Visually, it's very pleasing. And when I'm throwing out our team, I am talking all parts, because there was some beautiful, beautiful color work going through this that I was just like, man, I was really enjoying some of this stuff. And I was like, okay, this looks neat. So yeah, I'm curious to see how long. I don't know how long this team is scheduled to be on this. Is this the permanent team, or is this a filler team, or do we know what's going on with that?
Well, the team that was on this book before is the Justice League team now.
Right.
So I don't know if, to be honest with you, I don't know if this is the permanent team on this book. I'd be very happy if they were. I'm really enjoying what they're doing now, though, if they're a fill-in team.
Yeah.
It doesn't say guest art team, though. And usually that is a big red flag that the team's only on for a short bit. And don't get me wrong, I like guest creative teams, too. Because I think guest creative teams have a chance when they're involved in an arc to really make a mark and do something special as well. But in this case, they aren't being labeled as a guest team. As far as I know, I haven't seen that, so we'll wait and see. I would be right now happy with what they're doing right now, so I'm really, really glad they're here at the moment.
I'm going to need something to wear in a very big truck.
Sure. Anything else?
I'll need some guys. Not these guys, because, well, they're kind of dead.
Hey, guys, it's Steve Zanotta, noob from Alt3red Shameless plug, ALT, the number 3, REDEGOS.com. And I just wanted to take the time and wish you guys there a happy, safe, and healthy holidays, and may your next year be even greater than this year. And I wanted to thank you for all of the hours of listening enjoyment. Okay, once again, this is Noob, your buddy from Alt3red Egos. Talk to you later on.
It's funny, Steve Noob has been a longtime friend, and that's been the experience we've had with podcasting. I mean, we're going to be in March, 7 years? Yep. It doesn't, 7 years we're hitting, March 23rd. And I've got to say, that's been my experience with fellow podcasters. Noob, the way he presented himself right there. And with kicking off 2013, this being our first episode of 2013, is a perfect time, I think, to kind of reflect on that. Just how great with blogs and podcasts, the comic book community. I think people talking about comics and from people having casual sites to people, doing something more professional to something in between. I've really felt like overall, I would say I would be hard pressed to try and find any experience that I've had that hasn't been a positive experience with dealing anybody who's in the comic book media realm, doing things like we do. You know, I think people have been very positive, very supportive. They've shouted us out. I hope that everyone's felt that I've shouted them out. And if I want to do a call out again, if you're out there doing a podcast or a blog or something, and I don't have you linked on our site, please feel free to call into our voicemail line at any time. I love airing stuff like this. And Noob called in, really just to wish us happy holidays. But he's been a long time friend. It's a very genuine friendship, and I just think he sparked something in me just at that moment that I was just really reflecting on how lucky we've been with the podcasting community. And I am extending that to the blogging community and the website community of people doing comic book journalism, because we've been very, very lucky at, I think, the cross-promotion that we openly do of each other has, I think, been nothing but beneficial. I think anytime you do that, people are always like, well, I'm going to lose a person here or there because I shouted out this person's show. I've always been of the mindset, anytime you shout somebody out, if those people were going to leave because of that, they were going to leave anyway. They weren't invested in what you were doing. They weren't into it enough to stick around. But through that cross-promotion, through us shouting them out, them shouting us out, I've always found that I think on both sides, we end up gaining more of the people that really were looking for us to begin with. The ones that really, I think, people like our Facebook community right now that we've got going on. I know I shout that out regularly, but I think we got a lot of people there that, are just like-minded people that are fans, listen to this show. Either they've discovered us new, or they've been around for a long time, or, they're casual listeners or long time. And there's a few people on there that aren't even listeners of the show, never listened to the show before. There's some comic book creators that pop in there. I just think it's like-minded people who want to geek out about what's great about comics and to be able to share the comic book experience. That's something that in the 7 years we've been doing this, and before when I was, a listener of podcasts, I think one of the things that I think has been a strength from the internet and the community aspect is worldwide, we are able to connect with people who love this medium. And geek culture in general, not just comics, geek culture in general. And we're all connecting over all that stuff. We're not alone. We have a chance to have the conversations that we've wanted to have for years about this stuff. The insane speculation you and I do on this show. We do it on the Facebook group. We've done it on forums before. And it is this type of stuff that I think has been, just for me, really engaging. I look forward to recording every week because of this kind of stuff. And I just want to thank Noob for calling in. I want to wish him and Alt3red Egos a terrific 2013, and just all of our friends in the podcasting and comic book journalism community, blogs, everything out there. And people that listen to podcasts, because we can't thank you enough, and sponsors of podcasts. I think 2013, I'm looking forward to another great year, and it really is because of all of you that we keep doing this podcast, and I thought that was kind of cool. And it was kind of a ranting off the cuff, but he just kind of sparked something in me there that I just wanted to shout out.
And I'm just going to say ditto. Now, seriously, I'll say more than just ditto, but kind of this has been this year has been just absolutely wonderful for me. This has been a great time for it to be a comic book fan, to be a DC fan, and this has been a great time to be a podcaster. This is something that over this past year that I really just started recognizing and realizing, this is really neat. This is, I've always had an uncomfortable level of, when we're recording. I always felt like, okay, Jim, you're an idiot, shut up. Jim, you're an idiot, shut up. Keeps repeating over and over in my head. And I still get that going on, and there's probably people right now who listen to the show are saying those words, those exact words to me. I'm okay with that, but there's been just a wonderful feeling that and it's every time I'm going to the cons, when I'm sitting there talking to people, when we're doing just our recording, when we're doing just the variations and whatnot of what is, the podcasting and the community, has been just this great feeling. And it's been I don't know, I'm excited and I'm giddy at the possibilities of what we got coming down the line 2013, not just story-wise, but just, just in our just in our reactions and our interactions with each other. I've gotten to know people throughout the world, throughout the country, people that are my friends. Some people just through voices. You never physically actually met. Some people through comments, and emails and whatnot. It's, this is just a really cool time to be a geek. This is a cool time to be a comic book fan. This is a cool time, in life that, you mentioned how we get to have these conversations. You get to have the conversation that you always wanted, that you never really could in the past because you've got only one buddy who reads a comic book, or you got only one person over there. You don't have such a large community and such an easy way to get access to each other. I'm really thrilled and excited what we got coming down the line. Just as a industry-wise, as a podcast, blog, and internet community-wise, I think we're going to see some really cool stuff coming down the line. And just been, this is going to be a year to remember.
Well, it's one of the reasons why we read comics. It is the anticipation of cool things coming down the line, and what new are they going to throw at us, and how are they going to surprise and shock us and take stories in places we never expected. It's part of the magic of the medium, and this is my escape from stress. And I think that's healthy. These hobbies that we have, are really important to keeping us well-rounded and taking us, escaping from life at times when you need to, so you can, decompress. And I think that's something that's really, really great about the medium, and I'm just glad that we have an opportunity to share it with everybody.
How's it going, guys? Happy New Year, Merry Christmas to you. This is Brendan calling out of New Orleans. I've been kind of busy with the holidays. I hope you guys enjoyed yours. Great shows. I've just kind of caught up on them. I wanted to talk a little Death of the Family. I apologize on my last blurb. You caught me on it with the Batgirl. I was reading so many books at the time. I did confuse the fact that it was the brother on the phone. But anyway, to get back to the Joker and, the misdeeds at hand, I'm just kind of catching up. I've read the Red Hood and the Outlaws, Teen Titans, Batman and Robin, and Batman 15, kind of all rapidly over the last couple of hours. And I gotta say, man, again, some intense reading there. First off, I gotta say, I love the way these artists are depicting the Joker. I don't like to look at the negatives, so I'm gonna go ahead and focus on the two best artists here, definitely. Greg Capullo and Batman, of course. The things he's doing with his face are just wicked and so consistent. Especially the way he drew the face on Alfred in the dream sequence in 15 was so wicked. But then I got to give it up to I think the last name's Gray on the Batman and Robin 15 issue. The way he played with the face. I got to say, this is actually probably my favorite tie-in so far of all of the issues, is the Batman and Robin. The way Joker just interacted with Robin, it was so awesome. I got to say, I love Damian lately, and his depiction in the comics, how he's grown up, but he's still got that arrogant attitude. And the way the Joker interacts with him is different, and he even calls him out on the fact that he's different from all the other Robins, and he's got a little bit more of an edge, a little bit more of an attitude, and he likes that. So the one point, he has the face upside down in the beginning of the comic, and he turns it and says he's going to turn his frown upside down. That piece of art right there, just amazing. I gotta say, I am I grew up on horror movies and stuff like that. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was a favorite of mine, and I think some of what these artists are drawing off of are definitely inspirations to old cult classic horror movies like Leatherface and all of that. And man, that was just wicked, really, really wicked. So some adult fun in the Batman books right now. Definitely not anything for the kids. I keep my son away from this right now because he's a Batman junkie, and if he sees anything with Batman or Joker on, he's 3 years old. He wants to soak it up right now, especially Christmas just came and he has all his Batman stuff, so he's trying to dig through Dad's books, but I got to keep him away from the creepy Joker right now. But anyway, to get back to all the issues, I'm still kind of convinced Joker knows who they are. I mean, they're still dropping hints every now and then that he might not know. I think once or twice, kind of in the Batman and Robin issue, he addresses why are they all so concerned about Pennyworth. So you would think that he would know why they'd be concerned with Pennyworth if he knows who they are. But I mean, everything else, the connection to Nightwing, I also read that one, of course, with a woman he broke out of jail that has no ties to Nightwing at all, but ties to Dick Grayson. I guess you can argue the fact that maybe the Joker hunts out these people's territory so much they would know. I don't know. There's so many arguments right now in my head with all of this. I think he knows, but God knows there's so many arguments anybody else can have. I'm definitely open to suggestions with that one because we have no idea. The way Red Hood and the Outlaws ends up with Jason Todd looks like in the pit with Tim Drake, and of course I just kind of read Teen Titans came out this week, and it looks like Tim Drake is also in the pit. So I guess Joker's kind of collecting the family now and putting them in this pit. I'm guessing maybe after Batman and Robin 16, maybe after Robin fights this supposed creepy Batman father figure, he might end up in this pit as well. Joker's collecting the Robins, maybe, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. His plan is so crazy. Especially, my God, with the horse. I can't. I had to laugh with the horse when he shot the horse in Batman 15. Who didn't? The horse is ruined. What about, I can't remember the guy's name right now. Jim, I'll call him. What about Jim? No, Jim is ruined too. Shoot him. He's crazy. So all these books are full of goodness right now. I hate to go on the bad. Teen Titans was definitely the least of my favorite. I do love Tim Drake going over everything in his head. It would be something he would do. I just don't see why the Joker's messing with the Titans. If his ultimate goal is to mess with Batman, he would mess with Tim Drake. I get that messing with the Titans would mess with Tim at the moment. That's the only one I don't get to, because the Joker is crazy, but I don't see how it leads to his ultimate goal. That hurting Tim would be his ultimate goal, and he kind of has that at the moment. But I mean, other than that, the issues are great right now. I can't wait to read what's going on next. I can't wait to hear what you guys are talking about with the next episode and all these tie-ins. They're fantastic. And just one more little nod, I did pick up the Justice League and Aquaman over the break. I just read those two. I know you guys are going to be probably doing an episode on those. That's some great stuff. I've got to just make one little comment on the issue where Aquaman actually looks at Batman and he tells him about the plans of Atlantis going on and just kind of says, hey, Batman, we were going to take you out first. You were in our plans. And Batman gives him the, aw, that's awesome. I appreciate it. That's a Batman moment right there, just to throw into the whole death of the family tie. And I didn't want to go off on the Throne of Atlantis rant, but to throw the Batman in there, it was awesome. Batman's awesome. Hope you guys had a great New Year's and Christmas. Talk to you later.
I'd actually like to talk a little more in depth about Batman and Robin number 15, because we're going to start looking at the Robins and how they're being affected. But I want to actually say one thing, because I know I've been saying that I keep seeing evidence that could indicate that the Joker doesn't know. Raya's been the one I've seen on forums and stuff like that saying there's no connection to Nightwing. That's not entirely true. If you look at issue number 7, the battle at the circus with Raymond, the reason why Raya's arrested is because Nightwing took down Raymond. Dick Grayson at that time, the story was, and the story that was presented to police when he came out, was that he was knocked out underneath, what did he say? He was underneath some kind of thing that fell on him or whatever. Nightwing is the reason why Raya went to jail, according to the way that the story went. there is a connection to Nightwing because Nightwing spent so much time with the battle with the circus. So the circus was something he saved. The Joker was watching Nightwing operating in those stomping grounds. There would be a connection there that the Joker would be exploiting, somebody that he took down. So there is something there to that whole situation. So there is a Nightwing connection for Raya because Nightwing's the reason she's in jail. She confessed after the events of what happened when Nightwing took down Raymond. Not before, after Nightwing did that. So it was a direct result of what Nightwing did. And that's the reason why she went to jail. So there is a Nightwing connection there. So I agree that the possibility he went after Raya was to go after Dick Grayson. The other possibility is Nightwing's the reason she's in jail.
Yeah.
So there is a point there. It's in issue 7. And you'll see, like, the whole fight went down with Raymond, and she did not turn herself in because of Dick Grayson. She turned herself in because of what happened with the events of Nightwing bringing down Raymond. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But I agree very much with what he's saying, that there is the possibility of the flip side of it, that the Joker does know. It's not to dispute what he's saying, it's more of to add in that the other possibility still lands on that one.
I wonder if we're ever going to get a definitive answer. Because you never know with the Joker, if he'll ever, even if he says flat out, I know who you are. If he doesn't flat out call him Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson, Tim Drake, and Damian Wayne, you can't be 100% certain whether he knows or not.
I'm going to tell you right now, I am agreeing that the possibility's there that he does know. I'm more and more convinced that he doesn't know and that he's playing them. Because there's so much circumstantial evidence to everything. I think they're filling in the blanks.
Yeah.
And I think he's manipulating them to make them fill in the blanks. I think he's giving them just enough to make them wonder. And the fact that Batman has been so secretive has made them wonder. The stuff that he kept them from knowing. I think if you take a look at the issues and read them carefully, a lot of the blanks on what the Joker knows is not because of what the Joker's saying, it's what the character that is being focused on is saying in their internal dialogue. Not the Joker's dialogue, their internal dialogue. We're buying into their internal dialogue, not the Joker's dialogue. So read those issues and take a look at them again and ask yourself, am I buying into what the Joker's saying or what the hero is running through in their head? They're telling the fiction. I'm convinced the heroes are developing their own fiction because the Joker's manipulating them. I think he's playing them like a fiddle.
And you see that really well in the Teen Titans issue with Tim going back and forth with the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
He really, because even Joker saying, you're thinking, does he really know? Does he really know? Does he really know? You're thinking, no, he can't know. And Joker knew what was going through Tim's head, just because he's playing. I mean, and Tim has the point where say my name. Basically you keep saying son, kid, boy, say my name. And it's Joker can tell I'm getting to these guys now. I'm definitely getting to this kid, and something like that. That's blood in the water to a shark for the Joker. If he knows he's got that little pick at the little scab, he's going to keep playing on it, and he's going to keep harping on it. I was one of the proponents that the Joker does know. I'm slowly leaning towards that he doesn't know the exact details. When I'm leaning towards when he says he knows them, it's more of he knows how they're going to react. He knows what makes them tick. He knows what kind of people they are and how to push their buttons. Not, I know that Nightwing is Dick Grayson.
I'm also going to argue that it's not about killing them. I mean, if he does along the way, great. But he's more concerned with breaking the trust.
Yeah.
Because everything he's doing here, all of the mental manipulation he's doing is making them question Batman. And whether or not, because Batman kept this secret, what has it done to them? This now is trying to break up his allied pool and leave Batman alone, which he thinks will make Batman stronger. So it's an interesting little game that he's playing. That's what I think he's doing. I could be wrong, and I'm happy if I am, because I'm enjoying the story, so I don't care where it goes. But I'm loving the possibilities of this. This sequence let's start talking about our first Robin and Batman and Robin number 15. And the art team that he was referencing, it's Peter J. Tomasi on writing, Patrick Gleason on pencils, Mick Gray on inks, John Calitz, colorist, Carlos Mangual, letterer, Greg Capello and FCO Placencia on cover, Ricky Purdon, assistant editor, Rachel Gluckstern, editor, and Batman, of course, created by Bob Kane. And I want to apologize for any name butchery because this is a great book.
Oh, yeah.
I adore Batman and Robin. It's really a great title. It's kind of my sleeper Batman hit because there's issues where I read it where I teeter-totter between this and Snyder's Batman book, which one's my favorite. But then I'll read... Detective Comics has been great. I'm loving the long-form story that's going on right now in Batman The Dark Knight. That Scarecrow story, I think, has been terrific. And I'm loving the stuff going on in Batman Inc. So it's just a great time to be a Bat fan. This book works so well for me with the way Damian is handled.
Yeah.
Damian analyzing this situation, realizing what his father's going through. Really, there's points in time where Damian shows his immaturity, and then there's points in time where Damian shows a strategic maturity that's beyond his years. And when he's sitting there with the dog, with Titus, and talking about how my father can't afford to focus on only one person. With the Joker out there, the entire city needs his attention. We have to find Alfred. Not Pennyworth. We have to find Alfred.
Yes.
That distinction there was really great because this is Damian being human. This is Damian caring. This is Damian not having to put on a show for anybody. It's just him and Titus. He can be who he really is. This is when I loved this kid. That opening page, just one page, that one sequence with him looking with the dog in that moment, I'm like, I love this kid. This is a kid I wanted to smack around when he was first put in the book because he was made deliberately to be unlikable in the beginning. They've made me adore this kid. And I think that's true of any person in general, that we're so multifaceted as people that a lot of times people will put on things on the exterior that are off-putting, and if you give yourself some time to get to know that person, you'll find those things that are really below the surface. And Damian's one of those characters I think is so well written. He is one of the more three-dimensional characters in comics in a very short period of time when you think about his tenure. And it's a really well drafted one. I love seeing him do detective work. Seeing how much he's already learned from his dad, but also learned from his time and his training. It's really, really terrific stuff.
Yeah, this has been a great Damian issue again. It's, for me, I've been leaning towards Batman and Robin as my favorite Bat title just because of the Damian interactions. And this kid is just wonderful. And seeing those moments, I love how you mentioned that he says Alfred, not Pennyworth. And even later on, when he's first at the zoo and he sees the body being chewed up by the hyenas, he's like, Alfred. And you can kind of see the concern.
Are those Harley's hyenas?
Yeah.
Is that how you took that?
That's how I took it. Because, you think about back to the Suicide Squad talks about how he changed the hyenas even. He's made everything crazy. He's kind of taken it to another level. It's not the same pudding that she dealt with. And I think these are either Harley's hyenas or he just took more hyenas and kind of, drugged them up with some Joker juice. But I loved seeing Damian's concern when he initially thinks it's Alfred. And then
Harley had two and there's three there, so it might be what you. I guess I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm more validating what you're saying on the possibility of them being other hyenas, and he just had more access to more hyenas, because she had two of them there, and there were three in that sequence. So I agree with you that it could be either or. I'm sorry, I just was more thinking through what I was saying, and you're right that there's a possibility that it definitely isn't those hyenas. It could be just other ones.
Well, and it's you think about the Joker. He's not just going to limit himself. He's going to expand this, and it's a great ambush for Damian, because you got to hit with overwhelming odds.
Wait, it's more than three.
Yeah, there's like a dozen.
Because if you actually look at the sequence where you see them in the shadows, there's actually three other sets of eyes in the darkness there. There's at least six.
Yeah, and hyenas themselves are pack creatures, so they attack in the pack, and it's...
Well, the zoo doesn't necessarily have to have a pack, though.
Usually they will. they'll have a good size number, just because the animals are more comfortable if they're in a larger group.
Right.
So, but it's, again, Joker probably beefed it up a little bit to make sure. And then plus, I love the fact that he, with the drugging of the hyenas, it wasn't just about fighting off hyenas. It was about fighting off hyenas that are hitting you with the juice. So Damien realizes too late, oh, crud, I've been kind of drugged. And that was, again, Damien's such a cool fighter. Damien's really good at what he does, but there is little stuff he's going to miss. And when you go up against the Joker, you got to prepare for this second, third, fourth tier level attack coming at you. And it's, Damien's getting a first-hand education on dealing with the Joker. And I like the fact that he's able to make a mistake, but he doesn't, it doesn't completely defeat him. He's going to keep rolling with the punches. He's going to keep swinging, and he's going to keep going and throwing after the Joker. It shows Damien who he is, his tenacity, and this is a very, very positive Damien issue.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I love about the book is it's a chance to really spotlight a character like him in a way that usually is reserved for a solo title, with a Robin character. And I really like that they're taking a look at this book as it's called Batman and Robin. It's about the relationship between Batman and Robin. And you could easily call it Robin and Batman with the way that it's being handled. And I mean that totally as a compliment because I think it's terrific. He made a comment about the horror story tone of the artwork, and especially with the maggots on his face and stuff like that. I absolutely 110% agree that it gets super creepy like that, and it's something that I really enjoyed about the whole presentation of this.
I loved the upside down face where you see Joker's eyes looking through the mouth. I cheered. I laughed. I thought it was wonderful, and it had that wonderful creepy factor, but it was also just this great, sick, twisted Joker sense of humor that completely makes sense for him to do this and for him to actually play around with the face this way. This is, the whole worms and maggots keep feeding him to Robin kind of had me, chuckling and had me going, oh, this is just so disgusting, but it's actually so wonderful.
I'm going to break a solemn promise for that. I'm going to kill you. After the whole Alfred bit when he sees the video. Oh, I'm so scared. You will be. And when Damien just defiance hitting him in the head with his forehead and stuff like that. I love that the kid doesn't quit. He doesn't give up. He's a different sort of Robin. He needs to maintain that, through all of this, because that to me is a distinction. Even with being dropped in the bugs and all that, I don't see Damien breaking. There's something about Damien. I don't see him breaking.
Yeah, you know what? Damien's... No. And it's funny because he's saying he's going to kill him. He's saying he's going to... I think Damien's not going to break the code of the bat. I think in the end, Damien's not going to do it.
A part of me could see him doing it, and I would justify to it. I guess what I mean by breaking, I don't think he's going to break Damien's spirit.
Oh, yeah, that's a given.
So I guess that's what I'm saying. I don't.
Damien is.
I don't know. I don't think that Damien's going to be the one to kill the Joker. Let me put it that way. But I don't know that I see him having any qualms about doing it after what happened to Alfred, and I don't know that I disagree with him on that one. And I'm usually one of the ones. I mean, I have trouble harming flies. So on this one, I could see Damien being justified because this guy is completely crazy. Was I the only one that thought it was really creepy when we were looking through the Joker's eyes? We got to look through the face?
Yeah.
Through that sequence where the Batman was being formed? I really loved that visual. Because Chaos is having your father figure's blood on your hands. Chaos is having to beat Batman to death before he beats you. Now, what is that? That's not that can't be really Batman.
No, that's
so.
Not
what is
Bruce.
that?
I don't know who it is, but it's somebody.
Yeah.
But it's not Bruce, because Bruce is on his way to Arkham right now.
Right.
So this is something else. This is more mind games playing with Damien.
Great book. I really, really enjoy this one. He's doing a really good job of messing with the Robins.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've really enjoyed about the whole series. And I think that's what this is all about. It's about messing with them, getting in their head, making them think things that just aren't true. Because he's the Joker and he can.
Yeah, I'm still leaning, because he has the one line in there where he's like, "You all are starting to talk about killing. It's making me queasy." And in a way, it's kind of Joker joking around and playing, bits. But I think this is his end game. I think he wants to either get the Robins and all the Bat family to a frenzy where they want to kill the Joker, and that will be the death of the family. Because it'll be Batman fighting his own people to protect the Joker.
He wants that. The frenzy isn't about killing him. If that happens along the way, that isn't what matters to him. The frenzy is getting them so upset, so thinking that he knows something, so thinking that he has to be ended. The reason why they would want to end him, that they no longer trust Batman. I'm convinced that's the death of the family that he's after. The family is strong. The family has stayed together because of their trust for each other, their reliance on each other. He doesn't like Batman's reliance on them, and therefore they're, being there for him. If they no longer trust Batman, his opinion is they will no longer be there for him. He has to deal with all this on his own. I think this whole idea, what's the one way to get them to not trust him? I can take their lives away because I know their secrets. He has yet to say anything that guarantees that he knows their secrets. Why? Because he doesn't. They're filling in a lot of the blanks. They're plugging in the holes. Everything that he's saying, they're in their head saying he has to know this because of this. Why would he go after Raya? Well, because he saw Nightwing do it. But, it's enough. It's enough. Because he saw Nightwing taking down Raymond. He knows of Nightwing's ties to the circus. So he's assuming that on some level, because Nightwing's operating in that area, Nightwing's secret identity's in that area. He's doing the right math of saying these are these big sequences where he's been fighting this guy, Raymond's character, through the streets. He's been cited doing this. The end game was the battle at the circus between the two of them. How would he wind up being there in that amount of time? Because he was operating in that area. Batgirl. He knew Batgirl operates in that area. That's why she would show up for the mother being there. He talked about how he's targeting where they're operating. He doesn't need to know their secret identity. He needs to be where they're operating and tell them he knows their secret identity and let them fill in the blanks. He's letting them do that. And it's brilliant what he's doing. I'm becoming less and less convinced that there is another option of this. I'm now at the category right now where I'm 75-25. I think I would say right now, convinced that the Joker doesn't know anything that he says he knows. I think he's just studied them.
And I'm leaning more towards that way as well. I'm starting to shift that the Joker doesn't know. He knows stuff about them just because he is paying attention and because he's doing his homework, and for his being a complete crazy psychopath, he is also very intelligent. And he's, he definitely has some good level of strategery going on that he's able to do and know he knows what they're going to do and how they're going to react. So he lays out the trap that way. That's part of the thing with him going after the Teen Titans. He really wants to stick it and make it hurt into, Red Robin. He wants him to know, hey, I know who you are. I'm going to go after your other team now. Even though he doesn't know who actually is behind the Robin, he just knows he's got these association. He knows he's got this connection. Plus, he's going to play him. He's going to let the Teen Titans do some of his dirty work for him. Let them spread some Joker juice around. It's Joker really laying out the plan, and it's that confusion. It's the old Carney trick where you have the people who are the fake psychic mediums. I'm not talking people who have actual gifts. There's probably people out there who do that, and if you know someone who does, I'm not insulting them. I'm talking about the carnies, the guys who are con men and con women who absolutely have no gift whatsoever, who figure out who's the dead person you want to talk to just by series of open questions. And I feel a presence. I feel a male, and the person goes, "Oh, Johnny? Yeah, John. I think it's a John. Yeah." And you play out with open-ended questions and just little subtle pieces here, little subtle pieces there, and the person who so wants to speak to this person on the other side starts believing it and starts giving you information, and starts, next thing you know everything about this person, you know everything they want to hear, and now you're hearing it from beyond. It's that same type of style that he's it's that same play that the Joker's doing, and it's I'm loving seeing how it play out, especially because going into this I was thinking, no, he may know, Joker knows, oh my God. And even now at this point, if we were to read in the book and saying that the Joker did actually know, I would still say, oh man, that's awesome. Because they're laying such a great groundwork for us that the outcome, this is a no lose situation for us. We're getting a great story out of this. If we get a definitive yes answer, great. If we get still up in the air, great. If we get a definitive no, great. This is an absolute 100% hoorah moments are coming down the line, and that's part of my excitement on Death of the Family.
Amen.
Hello, boys. You may call me Joe. I have a message that needs to be delivered to Mr. Dan DiDio. I heard a rumor that a few years ago Mr. DiDio wanted to kill Dick Grayson, Nightwing, Robin. Well, Danny boy, that's my job. But I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to save face.
I want to thank Joe for giving us a quick phone call. I guess, Joe knows who Dick Grayson is.
Yeah.
That was a friend of the show, Rob Schaefer, calling and he sent me an email with this. He said, put this together for the show. And that was really good.
That was awesome, man. That was cool.
Very timely, too, with our discussion about whether or not the Joker knows. Actually, you know what, Jim? This would be a good time to shout out our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or drnorge on Skype. That's always available on our website and in the show notes. We love having you part of the show, and feel free. Actually, Rob emailed that to me at ragingbullets@gmail.com. Please feel free to send me things for the show if there's things you'd like on there, especially stuff like that. We're an audio medium. I tend to go to voicemails and audio content first because it just tends to work better. I used to read emails on the show, and then we got a voicemail line for the purpose of letting your voice be a part of our podcast. So please consider contributing, on any way that's easy for you to either email it to me or to call in. Like I said, it's available for our voicemail line on the phone. You can also call via Skype. We love having you guys a part of the show. It adds to, I think, a dynamic to the discussion, and I think it's really cool for the podcast.
He did just thank me, right?
Indeed, he did, sir.
Weird.
Once again, sponsoring this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, remember to check out that 50% off all new DC trades and hardcovers. Great way to pre-order those collected editions that maybe you're thinking before, I don't know if I can afford them. Check them out at 50% off over at DCBService.com. Over at InStockTrades.com. Remember to check out their amazing deals of the week, including the Absolute Batman and Robin hardcover, Batman Reborn. 50% off. That's a $100 book, only $49.99. Adventures of Superman, Gil Kane hardcover. This is classic comics being collected together. $40 book regularly, 50% off, only $19.99. That's over at InStockTrades.com, where orders of $50 or more give you free shipping. I want to thank both DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com for supporting our show. I want to encourage you to go to our website, RagingBullets.com, and click on the links to check out the amazing deals you can get from both websites. And again, they don't just sponsor us, they sponsor a lot of podcasts. They've been a wonderful supporter, and I want to thank them for continuing to do that into 2013. I also want to shout out the social media that we have. Besides the RagingBullets.com website, we have a Facebook page and a Facebook group. The separate Facebook group you can join. We accept any new members into the group. There's a wonderful, amazing community over there. We're also on Google+. We are also available on Twitter. And actually, my Twitter feed, any updating I do for the show website, I do a direct feed straight to Twitter, so you can, link on those. And I'm trying to do a little bit more discussions about comics going over on the Twitter feed as well. So it's just a great opportunity through social media to try and connect with the great audience that we have on the show. And I want to thank everyone for supporting us. A lot of people have taken it upon themselves, especially with our Facebook group, to start up their discussions. They're also shouting out blogs and anything that they're doing that's geek culture related. Remember that the fans of Raging Bullets are just like you, fans of all kinds of geek culture. And please feel free to let the discussions go beyond just our show topics, because I think that's really fantastic, and I just love the community over there. It's really an amazing group of people. Jim, our next episode, we're going to continue this discussion about Batman, focusing on the Robins, because we started off with Damian. We're now going to take a look at, obviously, Dick Grayson, Tim Drake, and Jason Todd. Also, I want us to start taking a look at the Superman crossover that's going on. So we'll start taking a look at this Hell on Earth. And I think we're going to be doing this with the Batman stuff until we take a look at all the Batman titles, where we will devote half the show to looking at the Batman titles, the other half towards taking a look at other parts of the DC universe to make sure we're I don't want it to just be Batman stuff. I want to make sure that we're also taking a look at the other amazing events that are going on, because there's a ton of things going on in the DC universe right now that we have to get to. So we'll kind of do this half and half thing, finish off the Batman books while at the same time taking a look at other material. But I think next week we've got to start talking Superman, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
We will see you then.
Bye.
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and flaws and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman. The villains are closing in, be they Thanon Guard or Egyptian. Working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier if you would just call for backup. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see.